Okay. Oh, dude, we're starting on the dot, man.
Mm-hmm. All right, everybody. Welcome everyone out there in Twitch land. I am Carlos A.S. Lysing, and this is a very special episode of the first Betrayal because I'm catching up one of my favorite people in the absolute world, Jeremy Brazil, into the game. Jeremy, where are you, Jeremy?
I'm right here. Where are you?
Yeah, I
Talk
am
talk to me, baby. Talk to
I
me.
am right here, and I don't know why you aren't there, but you're about ready to appear magically. There you
Well,
are.
that's what I do. I like to make an entrance.
Yeah. I hate to think that I formatted all this screen stuff just now and I didn't put you on there. But I'm getting the impression that that's what I did.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
no, I
Well,
didn't. I didn't do that. That what I did was I just never mind. I figured out what I did. Anyway, everybody out there in Twitch land, this first betrayal, this very special episode. There's a couple other things that are going on right now. With besides Jeremy solo, I'm testing out a couple pieces of new technology that I'm hoping are going to really improve the experience for everybody. Um, Frame rate we're bringing up a little bit. We're bringing up some of the quality of the stream hopefully a little bit so the picture can get a little bit better. Um, I'm doing this all in preparation for our big play test that we're going to be doing on May 11th of Squaring the Circle. Um, that way we can. I'm when the time comes for the big show. I want to make sure that everything, all the kinks are worked out. So if anyone out there in Twitch that's watching this experiences any weirdness right now, be sure to let us know in the chat, and that way I can move around some settings and hopefully improve the experience. Before we begin with the adventure, Jeremy and I offline were in the midst of talking a little bit about psionics in first edition. It should probably come as no surprise to you to know that Jeremy, being a Marvel superheroes player from way back, and that's how Jeremy and I actually cut his teeth in my games was through my old Marvel campaign. Huge fan of the psionic rule set because it dovetails so well with some of the themes in super games. And Jeremy, you were telling me you were just going through the psionics rules. And as a brand new player, pretty much to first edition, in the last, say, maybe 3 years or so, what's your general impressions?
well, right off the bat, I think that the rules are tacked on a little bit. That there's some muddy areas, and but this goes. Yeah, and I don't want to derail. I do want to answer your question, but I think it goes hand in hand with a lot of things that we come across in game rules and game mechanics, where it's easy to say, "Oh, that's broken," and throw it out.
Right.
But I think when I'm looking at psionics, I'm saying, okay, well, this is obviously not as streamlined as let's say illusionist magic or the magic user spells. But what it is to me is one of those things where, and I learned this from you really, is that you can have a really great idea and execute it horrifically, or you can have a horrible idea and execute it excellent.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I
I
and I
try
think
and
this
do
is
the
what.
second because my ideas are generally garbage. So I try and do the second more than the
Oh my
first.
god, I'll throat punch you. No, so I think that's a big part of when I look at the psionics. I can say, I bet there's a lot of 1E Greyhawk players who think this is trash and don't want it in their campaign. At the same time, I think that it does give a judge, excuse me, not a judge, a DM, the opportunity to insert it at particular places in a campaign for the purpose of making something interesting or weird happen.
I think that probably about, if I had to guess, with all the first edition players and judges and DMs that I say I did too, that I encounter, um, I would say probably maybe 15%, and that might be generous. Enjoy the psionic system, and maybe 10% allow it even in their game.
Sure.
A lot is because of what you said. There's a tacked on feeling to it. There's
Yeah.
holes in it. For example, Gygax makes reference a lot of times into the psionic system about levels,
Yeah,
like levels of mastery, but there's really no mechanic besides character level to get
correct.
psionics. And
Yeah,
there's also an explicit rule in Player's Handbook that you don't necessarily have to roll for psionics at first level. So
correct.
what you're trying
Anytime.
to say is if I roll for psionics at 20th level, I'm going to have a 20% higher chance of getting them. That doesn't tend to make a lot of sense. So
No, I think those are examples of you need to cater. The DM needs to be able to make some calls, and I think the whole player's handbook is this way. The DM is going to make the best calls that he can for his campaign at the time.
right,
You could argue that if I roll for, let's say I'm playing Rainmar tonight, right,
right. Mm-hmm.
and I wait 10 levels. Okay, I'm a first level bard, and I go, you know what? What the hell? I'm going to roll for psionics, and I get lucky, and I roll a 99. Okay,
And by the way, a bard class is going to have one of the better chances of having it.
100%, which is ridiculous, also because it's unnecessarily overpowered in that regard. But I think that what happens is you say, well, yeah, you rolled psionics, but this is effectively first level psionics.
Right.
You wouldn't say, well, you're 11th level psionicist because so you have to interpret the rules in a way that works for your game balance. I think that's true with anything.
I think so too. I think that what psionics allows me to do, and I'm in that minority that will allow it in my game,
Mm-hmm.
but I tend to do it a little bit of a different way. What I do with psionics is it allows me to achieve an effect that I want to get for a certain character
For sure.
without rule busting or making rules that don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you an example. What we do, for example, with Agrias is a great example of how you can use alternate and variant and rules that maybe aren't very often used to achieve an
Right.
effect. I'm using Oriental Adventures martial arts with an elvish character that is in the Flyness
Mm-hmm.
to reflect an order of characters that aren't really that they fight in an esoteric fashion.
For sure.
Much like if you look at what martial artists do in Greyhawk, like uh, normal Oriental adventures, they fight in an unorthodox way as far as Westerners would be concerned. So doesn't it
Mm-hmm.
make a total sense to you that there should be Westerners that fight in a weird way that you could use that rule set for? That was my thought.
Well, I think,
And that's what I do psionics for example. I might give somebody
yeah.
a psionic wild talent, just like one talent, in
Mm-hmm.
order to achieve a particular effect.
Sure. Yeah, and I think one of the examples that I came up with last night as I was playing with the psionics was, okay, let's say that there's a rule about telepathy in psionics in the handbook. It says I think it's an intelligence of 5 or greater. You can communicate, but you might say that, hey, you know what? I'm going to give this character telepathy, but it's limited to characters who have an intelligence of 15 or greater.
Yeah.
So there's nothing saying that you can't limit it in an interesting way, which doesn't imbalance the game, but still allows it to be somewhat effective.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think that what you're describing right now is that's clearly born. That point of view is clearly born of your experience on Marvel, where we do a lot of stuff with powers / limited or expanded
Yeah, I
or
think so.
whatever.
I think it's all part and parcel to really just science fiction and fantasy in general. There's lots of examples of that. Like, for example, another one that I was looking at last night was Dimension Door. Well, what's to
Okay.
say that you give Dimension Door to a character? Okay, let's say, hey, Rainmar, you give him a wild talent, Dimension Door, with the limitation that it has to use an actual door.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean that's an example too. So you can limit it in a way that's kind of fun for the player, and it doesn't imbalance the game, and it might provide some interesting, type of stuff.
The great Jason Zavoda of the Zavoda Index is watching us right now. He just said that
It,
psionics is a pretty flower that smells bad. so
100%. I
so
don't disagree. I think one of the things for me, I had ideas about psionic characters last year after Gary Con, and
Mhm.
we had a game where I played a psionic
Right.
in one of your online games,
Right.
and after
No,
that I got.
actually, it was a tabletop game. The psionic character wasn't that the leader of the group that went into the orc den?
You're talking about Mir Shen. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the Gith character,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Githyanki.
Hmm.
And so after you introduced me to the Githyanki, of course, I went off the deep end with the psionics. One thing I think is a cool idea is what if a character has psionics, the DM rolls it behind the scenes, never tells the player, and slowly introduces these weird effects. The player doesn't even know where it's coming from.
Yeah, the player thinks he's a magic user or something like
Super
that, or
cool.
thinks, yeah. And
Super cool.
and I remember when Gary Holian and I back in the day were discussing a character that he might want to play in a game of mine. He came up with this idea of this druid that was kind of a hermit, and he had a couple psionic abilities, and he really didn't even realize that that's what he was doing. And I think that's a lot of kind of what you're
Yeah,
referring to there. But
100%.
the larger part I was going to larger part of this whole conversation was we were talking a little bit about shoehorning systems into other systems. We
Hmm.
were talking about maybe how D&D first edition interfaces into other games or into other rule sets or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, this whole conversation came about from me talking a little bit about Fireland. I have a
Hmm.
character there that is psionic, um, and that is because when I was first writing Fireland, this was several years ago. Um, we had the 3.5 rule set was out there, and with the 3.5 rule set was the SRD, the standard rules document, in which I could use freely without fear of reprisal rules from 3.5. So I thought to myself, perfect, I'll write everything in 3.5, and that way Wizards of the Coast can't come after me when I go ahead and publish this.
Hmm.
After that point, I had a revelation. And that the revelation I had was I don't enjoy 3.5. I don't enjoy 3.5. I don't enjoy writing in 3.5. I don't play 3.5. Why am I writing all this in 3.5? Why am I putting
Yeah,
myself through that? So,
sure.
in 3.5 context, psionics is a lot more streamlined. It's a lot more integrated into the game. It's a lot more acceptable, I think, as I mean, hey, they have entire psionic classes in
Okay. Yeah,
3.5.
sure.
Um, so I thought to myself that at that point in time, it made total sense to have go ahead and dip your toe into the psionics rules here and there, just for players that are playing in that setting, because you don't want to alienate players. You want the players that enjoy certain parts of the game to be able to enjoy those parts of the game in your setting. So I thought,
Sure.
okay, I'll throw the psionics guys a bone here with this character. Well, now that I've retrofitted it into 1E, it changes the name of the game a little bit. So that's really what I want to talk about in with regard to how this juxtaposes between the two. Is that Fireland was originally written as a Chase Zavoda 3.5 is the metric system of role playing. It truly is. It truly is. I I guess I just now that you rethink the way, it's amazing the way that the rule set makes you rethink certain things about the setting, and
I think it.
it's amazing how it's going to change a few things.
I think it's a language.
Hmm.
When as you know, I've done a lot of traveling and I've been in places where people are speaking a different language. The language that somebody speaks changes the way that they view the world, the way they
It
interact with
does.
the world.
It
And I
does.
think these different iterations of the game and these different rule sets and the mechanics, it's like a different language.
And you read things. There's like a document online that I really like to read every once in a while, and it is words that do not have translations in other languages, like concepts that they have
Yep.
words like Schadenfreude, for example,
Hmm.
the German word, which is uh, gaining pleasure, visceral
From,
pleasure from someone
from
else's misfortune.
someone's suffering. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Um, it's not only an insight to language and everything, it's a bit of an insight to culture that they
For
had to
sure.
make a word for that.
Hmm.
But more than anything, like you said, it shapes. it shapes the tenor and the timbre of a culture. Language
Mhm.
does.
Yeah.
As somebody who was married to language from being a young man, and is in love with words and the way that they fit together, um, I've been very I've been very aware of that since I was young, and I think
Mhm.
you're absolutely right. And you're right again that the rule set is just like that. It
It's a
shapes
language.
the way that you tend to view things around it. For example, um, let's say that I have a weapon in 3.5, okay, that has the silent or armor that has the silent moves category ability.
Okay.
Silent moves is a special property that armor can have, in which you gain like a 15% chance to your move silently check.
Okay.
There is absolutely no such animal in 1E. It doesn't exist. There's no even mechanic like that. However, it doesn't mean you can't make one.
Correct.
What it does is it just means that you have to flesh it out a little bit more, so it's a little bit more 1E conversant. But that's a good example of how you can take 1E concepts that actually 3.5 concepts and actually retrofit them into one and make something cool out of them. That was actually a pretty good idea. There was nothing really like that before, and
Mhm.
it's not a horrible idea. It's not game imbalancing. Why not employ it? So
But you just have to be. It's kind of the reason I mentioned language is because you have to be able to. You have to have a Rosetta Stone in your head for how you translate one of these languages to another, and as you know, that's how what started the conversation tonight was
right,
can you D100 a D20 mechanic? Sure, you
yes.
can.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of ways to do it. And really, you can roughshod over the rules with the rules. You can use the rules to accomplish that. So
Amanda
I
and I
think
were
that's
talking a little bit earlier tonight about that when we were having a discussion about initiative, and I guess you and her had a discussion about initiative earlier in the day, and
sort of
I was telling her that when you're making a mechanic, using a higher number dice, in my opinion, is always better, because it creates more differentiation. What it
absolutely.
does is, and you'll find this a lot, like say in we'll use, since we're talking about D&D tonight, we'll use it in D&D. Part of the criticism that you hear a lot about 1E is that when you roll up characters, they all look the same because you have a 3 to 18 spread in 6 categories. And
Right.
when you've seen one first level magic user, you've seen them all. Now, whether
For
or not
sure.
that's fair, the fact is that 3 to 18 spread, that actually it promotes that
Hmm.
kind of
For
thinking.
sure.
Now, if you had a 1 to 100 spread, it would be there's a lot more
It's di-
room for
it's different.
differentiation. It's a lot easier to say that Gufang is stronger than Texia, who's just that much stronger than Borshilla.
Yep.
It's one of those things. But the problem comes into when you try and shoehorn that system into rules that we have right now. For
For
example,
sure.
okay, I start rolling initiative with a 1d100. Well, what do I tell the character who had the 18 dexterity and got the +3 to reaction adjustment for their initiative, that was a 50% C change when you were using a D6.
Hmm.
Now it's a 3% C change when you're using
Right.
D100. So you have to make sure that when you make a rule change like that
Hmm.
everything else that pours into it, and it becomes quickly a can of worms that you can't put back in the can because you're starting to affect things down the line, unintended consequences that maybe you didn't expect.
Yeah, I think this is the crunch player mentality too, is that they want to have. And as you know, I've never played that way. I've never had much interest in exactly what the percentage is that I have when I do this or that, because I think they're role playing games, ROLE, rather than ROLL. And in that regard, I think the numbers are just a guideline. They
I
serve,
agree.
yeah, the numbers should serve as a guideline for, for example, I was talking to you yesterday about Calissa and Trotty, and I know that she's got an 18 intelligence. Based on that, I don't have to know down to what percentage she can interpret a language. I don't have to know all those percentages. I only need to know that Rainmar's intelligence is 13, and that she's probably considerably brighter than I am.
Right, exactly.
And that's enough. And then that allows me to role play the character appropriately, so I'm not approaching her as if I'm a peer, because I'm not.
And what you're saying right now essentially is something that I say a lot. I use just different words for it, in that the system has to support the fun, not the other way around. If the system and the rules are supporting the story, they're supporting your player's enjoyment, then they're good. Until that's the line right over there for me. Now I realize that you have to that you're using everything you're doing has has an objective. For example, you need to be able to benchmark things against each other and resolve environmental situations. So I'm not saying totally throw out the baby with the bathwater when it comes to rules. But what I am saying is that the rules, never lose sight of the fact that the rules support the game, not the other way around.
Yeah, and I think a balance of crunch and fluff, a balance of die rolls and just good role playing, is a good approach.
Jason Zavoda is mentioning that he doesn't tell his players any numbers. So, and I think that's perfectly valid. And in fact, Jason, if you remember correctly, when we were playing in our game online for the charity game, I wasn't really telling you guys much of anything about numbers either. So, you're mostly a storyteller as a DM at that point in time, and I think that's when your game has a tendency to shine greatest.
I also think that there's if I can just throw one more thing in here.
Absolutely, man.
Okay. I think that, and I got this from you. I mean, there's no doubt about your influence on my DM style. But I definitely would say that there is a right time to require die rolls, because there's a time where even if you, as a DM, even if you don't need a die roll, sometimes asking one of the player ratchets up the tension. And that is so key. You might already know how things are likely to unfold because you have all the numbers in your head, but the players don't necessarily know that. And so you put the screws to your players by saying, roll for initiative, or, give me a percentile, and don't even tell them what the hell it was for. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. And also what Jason just mentioned is, as the DM, and he's totally supporting what you're saying with his comment, which is, as the DM, I need to know the numbers. The players need to be swallowed by the adventure. It's exactly what you're saying.
I'll give you a perfect example. Is I asked for one of my players for a die roll a couple of weeks ago. There was no die roll. I just wanted to screw with them. I said, "Hey, give me a percentile."
I do it all the time.
Yeah, I need a percentile. Hey, what was that for? Don't worry about it.
Exactly. I remember Patrick in our last game going, "Do I want to roll high or low?"
I don't know.
That was a perfect example of a die roll that to take the lid off of it a little bit.
Yeah.
I wasn't asking him to really roll a die.
For sure.
That was for an effect to kind of confuse things a little bit. So
and you have to
so predictable.
So I mean, the argument becomes, again, the crunch supports the role play.
Right, exactly.
And you sometimes force crunch. Like if you guys are in a big battle, let's say, if I'm running 3 of my players through a battle against a big freaking baddie, I will ask for die rolls. Mm-hmm. Mostly just because I want to ratchet up the intensity.
Of course.
And I want to provide the opportunity for someone to roll a natural 20. Mm-hmm. Because if that happens, shit's going to hit the fan. Excuse my language.
That's totally fine.
But yeah, if you give someone the opportunity to roll, one of the funnest experiences I've had with you is you ran a campaign for me at your house, a tabletop, and I know you're going to remember the moment that I rolled a 0-1. And we've laughed about it for 3 years straight that I rolled a 0-1. Mm-hmm. Could we have role-played that whole thing without the crunch? Sure we could have.
Yeah,
but the 0-1 made it hilarious.
Exactly.
And that's part of it.
And what you're you're really talking about over here is you're hitting on a meta point about how consequences of the adventure that come from the randomness of the game,
For sure.
whether it be player death, whether it be player success against all odds,
Yeah,
they change the tempo of the game completely and in ways that you don't necessarily expect, and that can be good. That can be very healthy for the game.
for sure.
I will also, though, I'm going to talk a little bit about the flip side of that before we get going on the game,
Okay.
and that is a lesson for DMs out there that I learned the hard way is never ask for a die roll when you're not prepared to accept the consequences of what it is. And I say that because this was I learned that lesson. I think I was in like 5th grade at that point in time, and I was playing Marvel superheroes with my friend, with one of my good friends, and it was the game I was running was probably the best game I'd ever run at that point in time. It was so awesome. It was a solo game. I had my player totally pulled into it. It was fantastic. He was fighting the big bad guy at the end of it, and I diced out the combat, and he kept missing, and missing, and missing, and missing,
Oh, yeah.
and missing, and it just took the air out of everything. I should have, in retrospect, knowing what I had right there, I should have. It was a lesson in reading the room for me.
For sure.
Because what I should have done is I should have read the room, realized I had a moment where I could have gone for the jugular as far as dramatic tension went, and I could have resolved that a lot better, and it could have been a legendary game. Looking back at it, all I can think about it now is a missed opportunity and an object lesson.
For sure.
Don't ever necessarily be beholden to what you've got.
I think just to add to that idea, you might be a little better at that now.
I like to think so.
I think you've grown.
I think I'd like to think so because I've screwed up enough.
Sure.
I've screwed up enough. I mean, I've gotten myself into situations that I look back on and I say to myself, and I'm a hockey player. Okay, everybody that knows me knows that I spent most of my life playing hockey at a relatively high level. I've watched a lot in hockey. We watch video all the time. We watch film. You get scouting reports.
Yep.
And you work on your game. You get the coach after you're done. He looks at video, and you're not looking at video about other teams necessarily. A lot of times you're self scouting, and you're looking at it and say, "Hey, Carlos, you took that face off the exact same way 10 times at the dot in a row. Do you know why you lost the last 3? Because he knew what you were going to do. You got to start changing up your face.
You're too predictable.
You're way too predictable. Change your top hand. Go for it. Go for the puck in a different way. You're trying to carry the puck in the offensive zone too much. Start dumping and chasing a little bit more often, just to retain unpredictability. Well, part of the game as being a good DM is being able to self scout. You don't have necessarily always video, but you can look back at your own games. You can say, "I did this well. I didn't do this well." You can be honest with yourself and say, "You know what? I'm going to take that particular thing that happened. I'm going to do better next time." And
I know you have at least one player that writes you scouting report.
You do have one player that writes me scouting reports. They're immensely helpful when you do write me scouting reports. A lot of times they shape the future of the character or even the present of the character. Like, for example, there's certain things that you have written to me in scouting reports where I look at them going back on the character and I like, I actually like that idea better than what I had in mind. I'm going to go with this. And I can see that my player is particularly interested in this aspect of this character situation or whatever. Let's investigate that one. Let's not be beholden too much to what I think is the great plot here, especially when my player is kind of subliminally telling me that the game should be going in this direction.
Well, I'll say 2 things. One, I'm flattered by that, just because obviously I write them mostly from a selfish point of view. And then secondarily, I think you just hit the nail on the head um, with Mjolnir in terms of that the game is not about the DM. The game is about the players. And as a DM, it's really hard if your quest is to tell this epic story and you've got every piece of it fleshed out. Well, there's no room for players because players.
Yeah, you should write a novel in that case.
You should write a novel.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that's not a terrible idea either. But
no, it's not. And there's room for both.
There's room for that.
And it's great to have a compelling story. It's great to have a cool setting.
Yeah.
But the thing is, for me, if you're going to be a DM, and for me, and this is just Carlos talking, obviously, one of the main things that you have to have, in my opinion, is you have to be able to derive pleasure from other people around you having pleasure. When you run a game as a DM, there's a ton of work involved. If you want to run a good game, there's a ton of work involved. You will be disappointed a lot because players won't do exactly what you want them to do, or
for sure,
or they won't, or they will react to a situation perhaps in a different way that you think is appropriate.
Right.
But you have to get over that as a DM.
Mm-hmm.
You have to remember this: your players drive the story. Okay, if this is the way they want to go in, then that's the right way for the story to go. Okay. And I say that because it is influenced a lot of the way that I plot out games, at least in my campaigns. I have a tendency now, whereas before when I was younger, you would create a meta plot. I don't do that anymore. What I do is I have an overarching theme. I have things that are going to happen at given times, whether the players are there or not. They're plot points.
You could call those plot points if you wanted.
I kind of do. And they happen whether the players are there or not. Maybe they hear about them in news. Maybe this happened. Oh, Cavericks Cove was overrun the other day. Oh, yeah, wow. Good thing we weren't there. Or maybe they're there when it happens, or maybe it just affects the game in a different way.
Sure.
For example, the assassin in First Betrayal that was poking around the drowned city of Marathason. That in particular was a plot point that was going to happen one way or another. It just so happened that Brixton and Arion were there when it happened.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the assassin at Cavericks Cove.
No, it just so happened that they were there when that particular character was there, and it took the way that things eventuated subsequent to that have changed the timbre of the game. So, I think that's, for me, that is why you have to control the game completely, but you have to also control it with a loose hand. I think there's a lot of value in not over DMing and not over scripting.
Okay.
And again, too, it's the whole idea of, you watch these time travel movies and things like that. Oh, yeah, we went in the past and now so-and-so isn't happening. Well, that is a lot like it, too. Okay, well, if you over-script too much, your players are going to do something, and then it's going to completely invalidate part of your plot. And then you've wasted a lot of time, a lot of resource. You're going to be frustrated as a DM. It's just not the appropriate way to go at the game, in my opinion. I think it's way better for me to run it as I'm the universe. I'm the continuum. I respond to the player's actions. I give stimuli that is there whether or not they are, and what they do with it, come what may. They are the ones who chart out how their lives are going to go based inside of that continuum.
Yeah, you gave me a piece of advice, it's probably 10 years ago now, but I think it really hit home with me because I was writing a lot of characters, I was writing a lot of plots, and I was running them by you. And you said, "Well, hey, this is all great, but you're playing the game in a vacuum right now." Right. And what you have sent me, this is what you said to me. What you've sent me shows me that your NPCs are central to the story.
Right.
And that doesn't work. Your player characters are central to the story. You can't make your NPCs, no matter how much you love them, central to the story.
No, you can't.
And this is something like a perfect example is Rainmar. Okay. and you know me well enough to know that this was going to happen anyway. But what were the odds that a random orc in that camp was going to end up a central character in this game?
Almost none. By the way, hey Frank, it's good to see you from Nightheart Gaming. Thanks for joining us tonight, brother.
Almost zero.
Almost none. And another thing too, characters, NPCs will become hits when you don't expect them to. I didn't expect Kalissa and Trotty to be a hit. All I did is I thought to myself, or all I did was, okay, I like this idea of having this antiquarian there who's just kind of mostly a scholar. It's not going to get really too involved in stuff. And I wrote this character in another an adventure card from Castle Entertainment. I liked the character. I wanted to revisit that and go a little bit deeper into what that character was about. And it just so happened that people are taking a liking to that character. And the same thing for Herrick. Herrick's a great example of that. Your brother adores Herrick. Herrick, you know how close he came to dying in the middle of the street back in Caverick's Cove?
Oh, I do know, because I was going to ghost him.
Yeah, I know. And all I'm saying is that you want to talk about a character that was completely non-essential, and yet you never know when these guys are going to become hit. Now, he's almost viewed as an indispensable part of the group. He's a part of the central cast of characters. Just because of the way you guys, not Carlos, but the way you guys handled the situation. So I think it's very important that's a good example. Herrick is a really good example of how players should always drive the game and should drive the plot. Because now when we tell Herrick's redemption story, okay, that he was just this idiot barbarian that was a mercenary, was out for himself and just wanted to do whatever. Now we look at his character evolution. Patrick can actually take credit for that.
For sure.
He's like, that's why that character is meaningful to him, because he's played a huge part in his story.
For sure. That's huge. And you can't see, in my opinion of that, it's what makes judging or DMing, it's what makes DMing interesting, because otherwise as a DM, you know everything is scripted, but what allows the DM to kind of play is when the DM is forced to react to the players the same way the players react to the DM. And that's a special part of the game where Carlos has to be that much more creative, because Patrick took a random character in the game who was nobody and turned him into a centralized character. Rainmar picked a random orc out of a random incursion, a random tribe, and made him a central character in the story. And you can't, Carlos now has to adapt to that, and that's fun. That's a fun part of it.
It's fun for the DM too. I mean, it's great for me to be able to have to think on my feet a little bit. It challenges me. You know, I've been doing this for a long time, so stuff like that is welcome to me. Where I'm in a situation where I have to think on my feet a little bit and decide, hey, this is where I want to go with this, and you know, it's fun for me just as much as it's fun for you when I do stuff like that. But it also promotes a little bit of what I have a tendency to do. Which is I have a tendency when I am making a scenario that I have a story for everybody, kind of. In this particular case, the orc camp, I didn't have a story for everybody, obviously, because you've got 45, 50 faceless orcs there. I had a story for the leader, and I had a story for a couple other characters in there, the concubine, but that was about it. Herrick's case, I did have a story for him. Because you have to be ready for that. You have to be ready for them to say, hey, you know what? I took a real shine to blacksmith. Let's see if we can recruit this guy into the party. And the next thing you know, he's running around with you. Nelson, your carriage driver, another good example.
But yeah, another thing that players do that is really tough, a player like myself especially, is ask a lot of questions.
Oh, yeah.
You know, maybe you don't recruit the blacksmith, but you ask him where he's from. How did he learn to blacksmith? Where, you know, is he married? Does he have any kids? Where did he get all these dogs? Why does he like dogs? Where, you know, and pretty soon the DM wants to murder you.
Unless you're prepared for it.
Unless you're prepared,
In which case, I generally am, because that's just my style. Is that I've played long enough to know that that's how my players are going to go. It's a little bit different with new players because you're not sure what their style is like. I've played with you for a long time. I know that you're going to be like that.
Right.
It was when Matthew Lazinski joined our group, and good to see you out there in the audience, Gafang. I had no idea what his playstyle was like. I knew he was he was a newer edition player. I knew that his experience with the game was likely totally different than anything that I had. So you
Sure.
kind of have to see how things are going to go like that and see what they're like playstyle wise. You just play your game until then and see and hope come what may. But
Sure.
I think that I have my tendency to script or to script personalities and everybody like that before you even meet them.
Hmm.
That's helped me a lot as far as that goes. So are you
Sure.
ready to do some first betrayal, Rainmar?
Oh, this is a game night. Yeah, yeah, I'm
I
in.
know. You think this was castle talk? I should have changed the background at this point.
Totally,
Uh,
totally.
but you know what? I really enjoy. We the last few times we've been doing this, we've had a long talk before the game like this, and I've really enjoyed them because it brings up some stuff and it gets the people out there and Twitch to get a chance to know you guys a little bit better. To a lot of them, you're an unknown commodity. You're not in the Greyhawk community until recently. They get a little chance to understand what you're about and what you bring to the table, which is a lot, actually. I mean, flavor wise and content wise, these guys don't realize what a monster creator you are. So,
Settle down.
no, no, no.
Just
I've known you long enough to be able to say this. So, your future in the community is they don't even know right now. so
neither do I. That's just
well, that's the whole thing is that it's up to me to help kind of cultivate that. But anyway, going back to the first betrayal, um, when we last left my intrepid hero, Raymar the Wildlight, uh, you were with the group. The group had just thought that they had retrieved Agrias back. Agrias had flickered out of the out to recover Sister Aramina, who
mhm.
was in the midst of hiding from a chimera within a room. Everybody knew opening the door to that room and seeing that probably what was probably an undead chimera was certain death for your group. So you had to think outside the box a little bit. Your thoughts outside the box was Rainmar tried to teleport into the room using a mystery of shadow that he had not yet mastered. Um, he was flying by the seat of his pants. It was a risky move and it failed. And what ended up happening was now he has disappeared. Your group has no idea where he is. The only thing you know is what Melina, who is there, who is also of his order, has told you. And that is she had a shiver to her core and she said that there was a massive disturbance in the Umbra. And she kind of hung her head and she said, he's gone. Everybody was standing outside of that door up to that point. And it was a very somber moment because you accomplished so much, and yet it was kind of a Pyrrhic victory, in that you'd lost perhaps your leader and perhaps your two most powerful members of the group. But what I would like to do is I would like to move events ahead slightly now. Right after that, your group would have most likely gone upstairs to back to or at least to the altar room to camp before you would have moved along. Um, Everybody's kind of keeping to their own counsel at this point in time. It was a very somber moment, as I said. Um, Lily is absolutely distraught. She's beside herself because she had grown really close to Agrias. She looked up to him a great deal, and it's if it was not evident before, it is now. Um, her sister is over there, as is Brixton, trying to console her a little bit. But when Brixton realizes it won't work, he kind of keeps to his own console a little bit. The monks are by themselves. They're saying prayers as Zanye, um, hoping for a positive fate for Sister Aramina, who was their leader. Um, it's really shaken. The disappearance has shaken a lot of people to their core. Um, with that being said, what would you like to do, Rainmar?
What time of day is it?
Currently, it is night. It is probably about 10 o'clock, you would figure, at night.
Um, I guess the first thing worth noting is that Raynmar is unaffected by this disappearance. He does not believe for an instant that this is anything but a calculated move. He has a lot of faith in Agrias, and he has even more disturbing faith in the prismatic chrysanthemum.
Right.
So because of that, he's not going to react the way that anyone else that you just described is reacting that way.
The only person that maybe shares a similar opinion to you that you can see is Melina,
Mhm.
who goes through a whole gamut of emotions, it looks like. At one point in time, she looks like right away she seemed really distraught. And then she seemed like she considered it. And now she looks just more like she's pensive, like she's lost in thought. Where she's trying to, I think you get the impression that she's trying to attribute consequence to what's happened, not necessarily the particulars, but what the consequences of it are.
Um, I would convey to her that, I spent a lot of time watching. I spent months.
We're in role play right now, so you're over with her right now. You're over in a corner of you're in a corner of that main room that you first walked into, inside of the temple, and you are right there in particular,
Mhm.
and you are over at the back of the room by the altar.
Mhm.
And you're just kind of whispering to one another so that everybody can have their own little bit of privacy. So go ahead and tell her what you're going to tell her.
Based on what I've seen in these past months with you, Agrias, and your mistress, this is, if I had to guess, this is part of his training, and probably not an accident.
I've considered the same. I realize that the prismatic chrysanthemum exists in the past, the present, and the future simultaneously. And sometimes the order in which these existences overlap is not the same as the way that we experience time. Perhaps it's not even something that we can fully understand. But at the same time, I can't help but wonder if this was her plan, what does she expect to come of it? What does she expect Agrias to become? Is she prepared to lose him to a trial in the plane of shadow? Is he disposable to her? I have many questions, and some of the answers that I find myself considering are troubling.
Well, I can't allow myself to be troubled because I can't for even an instant believe that your mistress has failed to consider this eventuality. I can't imagine that. And because of that, I have to tell you that Agrias gave me his black orchid sword and requested that should anybody come looking for Agrias, that I am Agrias from now on.
She stops for a moment, and she looks at you quite seriously, and she says this: Raynmar, do you think that those words that came from his lips, do you think he knew somehow even then?
I think he knew it was a possibility.
Do you think that he foresaw it somehow? Perhaps he is more akin to the mistress than you and I even thought before.
I think it's more likely that we don't fully understand the path of Ebon Whispers, and that he could probably hear either his voice whispering back to him from the future, or her voice whispering from any place in time.
You know, all I can sit here and think as night is falling upon us, I now know why she taught us. She showed us that mystery, even though she knew well that we weren't able to absorb it. This was planned by her. She knew that he would try it. She knew that eventually this would happen, even if it didn't happen now. That's exactly why she taught us how the mystery of flickering.
And do you know how she knew?
Because it's already happened. It's
And
already
because
happened from her point of view.
And because it already happened to her. I think she's assuming Agrias is going to walk the same path that she did.
And then when he comes out the other side, do you expect him to be as she is? Like a ghost?
Correct.
To what end?
Mastery of the art.
Is that all that matters?
Well, she spent potentially eons dedicated to that very thing. It seems likely that she would expect her apprentice to fall into shadow and emerge out the other side changed as she was.
Survival. You kind of look over at each other, and the orc is over with you, Norik. Your orc. He looks over at you and he says, everything in the world comes down to that. Survival. If I don't understand what you're talking about, that's just beyond me. But what I do know is this. If I was teaching someone how to use a sword, I would teach them a way to defend themselves against anything, make themselves as strong as possible, because I know that if you've got a sword in your hand, you're going to have to use it at some point. That's just how it is. If you carry around pots and pans, you're going to be cooking at some point. That's just your life. That's the path you've chosen, right? That's what you're talking about. You're talking about paths of shadows and light and whatever, but she probably knew he was going to have to defend himself against something, right? And so she was giving him a tool to survive. That's, to me, as simple as it gets.
I don't disagree. That's an important insight to our situation.
More important is, are we going to sit here in the side of this cold temple here? Are we done here now, or what are we doing now? He looks at you, and more importantly, you're in charge now. Grias isn't here anymore, so what's going on? Melina just kind of looks, kind of raises her eyebrows, and she says, in a way, your friend is correct. We've been decapitated to some degree. We don't have a leader. We need to regroup, and we need to determine our path forward.
Well, I disagree, Melina, because Agrias is standing right here.
She chuckles a bit. I'd forgotten.
But I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I can fill the shoes of Agrias, but what I am going to do is follow through on what he asked me to do, which was to take his name and play the role. In the meantime, I want to dig deeper into this place because I can't believe, even for a second, that's an accident that we stumbled upon this temple.
So are you suggesting that somehow the mistress manipulated even that event?
No. I'm suggesting that there's many pieces on the chessboard. Do they play chess in Greyhawk?
They play dragon chess.
That's what I said. There are many pieces on the dragon chessboard.
She nods. Well, she says, I suppose we're going to see which ones are most important, aren't we?
We are, and I'm going to start work right away. If the two of you would be interested in helping, I would appreciate it.
What would you need of me?
I'm looking around. This is the room that had the bowl in it.
Yes. And Norik just looks at you and says, well, your fate is my fate right now. So whatever you decide, we're going to do.
In the room, so the
This
blessing
is where the altar is, right over there on the screen. As you speak, at the back of the room, that square with the 2 dots in it.
I'm not seeing it.
Okay, it'll come up here in just a moment. Probably.
Oh, I need to be on the Twitch screen. Got it. Okay. Okay. And where am I on that map exactly?
You're right over there next to the altar, which is the square with the 2 dots on it.
Where's the bowl?
The bowl is in right between the 2 dots.
Oh, okay, got it. And so the statue is in that back.
Yes, it's right behind it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a universal D&D map icon for altar.
Okay, got it. Okay, I was on Zoom. That's why I didn't see it.
Okay, got it.
No worries. So what is the status of this room? I'm assuming that Atria and Demetrios, they've gone back to their rooms.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, actually, you have not seen Demetrios you haven't seen anybody else since that moment happened.
That's fine. That's fine. This room, what kind of shape is this room in? I know you said it was brightened by the bless and all of that.
Yes.
What kind of shape is it in otherwise?
It is old, but it's made out of marble, of white marble for the most part, so it's actually in pretty good shape.
Is there any kind of water source in this room?
No, there is not.
Okay, that's fine. What I'd like to do is go a little bit deeper into the temple, and I'm going to ask Melina and Norik, and perhaps the brothers of Zanye as well, to help me do some tidying of the temple as we move through to investigate.
The brothers of Zanye look at each other and
I interrupt their thought and I say, this will serve the balance until the sister returns to us.
It's not so much that, Jonas says. We had a discussion earlier tonight about this and about our role with this place. We came to the conclusion that though they are of a different pantheon, that these 2 gods that we see at the end represented here on the altar, one represents light and one represents darkness.
For sure.
Betwixt the 2, shadow must exist. Therefore, the balance is served and Zanye is present here, whether or not these gods hold sway here. The mistress is here. Therefore, we find it acceptable to aid.
No, and I don't disagree with you. I've been thinking about what Sister Adomina would do in this position. I want to start our way through here, and anything that has been disturbed or soiled by the passage of time, we're going to try to right as we move through to investigate the temple.
Okay. In the meantime, your whole group kind of slinks off more or less to do this away from the other group who is more or less in the front here. Which of the 2 paths are you going to take going forward?
Yeah, so forgive me because it was a little bit chaos last time we were in here, but there was There was a left toward Demetrios, and then another hallway that went toward the Chimera.
If you were to go from the room that you're looking at right now, and you're going to take the two paths that go forward, which I'm going to make evident on the board right now.
Okay.
If you were to go forward, there is a path to the left and a path to the right. All right? Away around the altar. The path to the left was the one that goes to the Chimera. The one that goes to the right is the one where you saw Demetros and the Medusa before.
Okay, very well. I want to go to the right of the way I'm looking at the altar right now. So I'll go to the right.
Got it.
Toward Demetrios, and that was a slender hallway that opened up into his study. Was that?
Yes, it did. So you're going ahead and you're going down that way, in that direction.
Okay.
Here's where the turn was.
Oh, okay. I need to stay on Twitch, I think.
Here's where the turn was. The turn going to the right, there was a secret door there, which has now been opened. That's why there's no symbol for it. Ahead was towards the Medusa. To the right was towards Demetros. Will you continue to the right then?
Yeah, so Demetrios' study is to the right of this hallway.
Yes.
What are we seeing in the hallway? Are we seeing any kind of tapestries or statues, any carving?
No, it's actually a pretty sterile environment. It's mostly white marble. It's very cold being underground. There's a lot of dust in there. It's clear that it hasn't been used in a long time. Now that there's light within here, you can tell that the ceiling is got kind of a black stain on it that is consistent with people using torches in here previously. You figure that they probably used torches to navigate their way, the people who made this previously, which also indicates to you that the blessings of Hades or whoever lit this was not present at that point in time, because otherwise it wouldn't have been necessary.
Interesting. How tall is the ceiling?
About maybe 10 feet high.
Okay, so we can't reach it right now. We need to find a way to clean. So eventually I'd like to clean the ceiling, but let's just keep taking stock. So I'll hang a right at this corridor.
Looks at you and says, I can reach it.
Who says this?
Brother Karak. The Knoll. He's 7 feet tall.
Okay, brother, would you be willing to start the cleaning of this passageway?
It's going to take a while. What do you want me to clean it with?
Let's move ahead and ask Demetrios where maybe a supply closet is. There must have been some way to care for this temple originally.
Okay. So you're going ahead and you're going towards Demetrios' room. Heading towards Demetrios' room.
Do I need to be back on Twitch?
If you'd like to be.
Okay.
You head down towards that direction. And in fact, you shouldn't need to be on Twitch for this point in time. I was just giving you a general idea of this map in case you needed it.
Okay.
We'll worry about the map when it becomes of consequence to you.
Okay.
Because you know this area pretty well. So you're heading down the direction towards Demetros' room. You go down about 30 feet, and then you take a left to go to the area. Could you please roll me a six-sider?
A six-sider. Mm-hmm. This is in Demetrios's?
No.
4.
You almost said endometriosis.
Endometriosis 4.
Okay. No. So no, you go ahead and you take the left-hand turn, and you end up going ahead. Probably about another 30 feet, you see his study. It's a 30 by 30 room. Again, the ceiling is about 10 foot tall. There's a desk there. The desk is made of old wood. It looks like beech or something like that. It's kind of a whitish wood. There's about maybe a quarter-inch of dust on it.
Okay.
There's an old stone on top of it. A pair of carving tools, like a chisel and a hammer.
Okay.
There's 4 or 5 sheets of stone there, and that's all you see in there. The ceiling is stained again. There was an area. There's 2 sconces on the wall for areas where you could put torches.
I have torches.
Yes, if you wish to use them. But
Yeah.
the area is lit. So
Still.
lit.
Yeah. I'm gonna light the torches in the sconces
Okay.
just to maybe add a little warmth to his study.
Okay, you put a little bit of warmth in there, and yes, it is a welcome heat. But right away, as soon as you light the torches and the oil on the torch begins to burn with that black smoke, as it reaches the ceiling, you can tell that yes, that is exactly what has happened, is that torches in here have stained the ceiling in places. Because there's 2 spots right above the sconces in which the ceiling is more stained than anywhere else.
Okay.
One thing that they did here, this is obviously, you look at this place and the walls are all jacketed in this beautiful white marble and everything, and they did a great job carving it in here, but one thing that is not so hot is the ventilation.
Okay.
It gives you the impression that whoever was here, this temple, when they made it, they may not have used it all that long. Because otherwise that would have been apparent.
Do I get the feeling that the temple was abandoned prior to worship there?
It's hard to tell.
That's a reach, yeah. Sorry about that. So
Melina's standing right now over by the desk, and she's looking at the stone implements. The brothers are kind of just walking around the room.
And Melina is an elf as well.
Yes, she is.
I just want us to look for any secret passages within Demetrius's study.
Before you even have a chance to get that out of your mouth, Jonas is over in the northeast corner of the room, and he says, "There's something back here."
Okay, let's investigate. Can I get you guys to check for traps? Although I don't think we're in danger of traps. We're welcome here. But
Jonas nods. He says, "Yeah, I'll handle that right now." He says, "It's a little tricky," he says. "These are people from a different culture. They may not think about traps the same way that we do. They may rely on something different than we do. So we'll all have to be on our guard." So he starts working on the door. By the time he's done, he looks back. He says, "I don't see anything strange about this door at all." He says, "I can see that you push the stone slightly inward, and then you shift it to the right."
This is in the back of Demetrius's study?
That's correct.
You know, he made it very clear that I was welcome there. I'll primary through the door. I won't expose anyone else to that. I have a weird feeling about the temple being dangerous to people who were not necessarily invited to stay.
You stay in you do that.
Yeah.
You push the door in. Melina is behind you, and she's not taking any chances. She draws her sword.
Put that away, please. Come on.
She looks back at you, and she says, "With all respect, Rainmar, there was a ghostly chimera that was wandering this place. Not everything here, and we've already lost 2 members of our group. Not everything here, whether we're welcome or not, will receive us well, I think."
All right, fine. Okay. So moving forward here.
Moving forward, you find a 10 by 10 room. The 10 by 10 room is also made out of marble. It is the ceiling is 10 foot high. The back wall of it has a small mat at the back of it, in which it looks like it's kind of cushioned. It looks like with cloth and things like that. It looks like somewhere where somebody would sleep. The wall, along the wall the south face of the wall, there are a set of shelves, and there's a lot of old earthen vessels along there. All of them have been painted with different, looks like lettering and different pictures. all in black.
Okay. Can I look close a little bit closer at the pictures and see if any of it means anything to me?
Yeah. You're looking at the pictures. The pictures all have a unifying theme, and that is of boats, ships that look like they're crossing a great distance on ocean, and then they conclude as you turn the thing at mountains,
Which is where we are.
Presumably.
Yeah, okay, because we're not far from the water and we're in the mountains. Can I look inside them? Are they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they sealed?
No, none of them are sealed.
I'm actually not prepared to do that yet because I feel like we're in Demetrius's room,
Okay.
and that's kind of rude. Is there a? I'm going to go ahead and just call out his name and see if I can get him to appear before us. I want to ask him some questions.
You say his name, your voice echoes in the marble. Jonas says, "I'm going to stand guard at the front of the study. I have an odd feeling about this," and he walks away. It's right towards the end. Karak looks at you and says, since you have the three of you here, because Norik is with you as well. He goes, "I'll do the same."
Okay, sure.
So the two brothers go out to the front of the study. Norik is just kind of looking at all the belongings. He goes, "Those things right there." He points at those clay vessels. He says, "Our tribe, we used to see things like that around here." Broken
is the clay vessel that I took out of the encampment is of the same design?
Mm-hmm.
In the picture on the vessel that I got from the orc.
I should say this about it. The reason why it wasn't obvious is the clay vessel that you're looking at that's in Demetrius's room. All around the top, there's a repeating pattern. It's kind of like a squared off pattern. And you could see the same thing on there on the jug that's sealed, but it does not. The jug that's sealed has nothing drawn on it. Just that pattern. That's why it really wasn't obvious to you that it could have been through something unusual.
But they're okay, but they are similar.
They are very similar. It's clear to you that they were made by the same culture. Same shape, same style of creation, the same border on the top. It couldn't be anybody else.
I'm going to go ahead and put the one that I took from the orc camp on the shelf with the others.
Okay.
And then
just watches you do that.
Say again?
Mulia just watches you.
And then looking through the study, if I go to his desk, what do I see? You said there was some tablets for carving and chisel, a hammer, that kind of thing.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Was there anything else in the desk, writing implements or?
Well, the desk does not have a drawer. It's just a flat desk.
Okay.
Like a workbench more than anything. You're looking at it. Nothing else seems like it's evident there.
What about the chair?
The chair is a very simple affair. It's more of a stool than a chair.
Okay.
It does have a little bit of a back, but not much. It's clear to you that whoever made it was not probably a carpenter. It's not like it's lathed out or anything like that.
Okay. Man, I just call for Demetrius again.
Uh-huh. Nothing happens. Just the echoes of your voice around.
In the last episode, when did I notice he left?
As soon as all that kerfuffle with Agrias was gone. There was so much confusion there going on. There was so much going on. It was really hard to tell. But as soon as it was done, you look back and he was not there.
That's not quite what I was expecting. I don't know what to do now.
Melina looks at you and she says, "There's much yet left for us to explore here."
I'm not questioning that. I'm more just trying to decide what order to do it in.
She asks you, "Have we considered talking to the Chimera?"
No, because I don't speak Chimera.
Oh,
Do
you seem
you?
to speak so many languages. I almost took it for granted.
Well, can you use ebb and whispers on the Chimera?
I could perhaps compel it to perform one task for me, but it would be a simple task. Like I could compel it perhaps to sit or lay down or
Or how about not attack me?
perhaps, she says. I don't know if it would be. It seems to me that the stronger the individual I attempt to to walk that path with, has a better chance to resist it. I don't know if it would work or not.
I want to just look. Can I look for Atria?
Yeah, you go ahead and
with the word "look" very carefully applied, of course.
Yeah, you walk back down the corridor, and you're at the spot that's on Twitch right now as we speak at that junction, and you start to walk forward down the hallway. As you walk down the hallway, you reach the door at which that bars the way to her chambers. Do you plan on knocking? Do you plan on what do you plan on doing?
Yeah, but just knock.
There's no response from behind the door.
Her room is adjacent to the Chimera.
Her room is, if you were to go straight down this hallway and reach the end of it, is down there. If you were to walk straight down the left hallway rather than the right, that's where her room is. Oh, the Chimera's room is.
Okay.
At the conclusion of that.
Yeah, I'll close my eyes and push the door open and call her name again.
Push the door open. You call her name. You hear nothing.
Is this in her room? Atria's room is the room I took the helm from.
Yes, it is.
And there was a place to set the helm?
Yes, there was.
If I set the helm back on there, what happens?
Well, now you're going to open your eyes.
Well, hopefully.
Okay. You open your eyes.
Unless I can get over to it with my eyes closed.
And you realize, you feel like you could actually. You knew that it was directly across from the door.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. You walk with your eyes closed straight ahead, like kind of feeling your way ahead. You get probably about 30 feet ahead, and you feel that stone pedestal on which it was set.
Okay. If I put the helmet back on the pedestal, does Demetrius and Atria appear?
No.
And she's not in the room?
Nope. Atria, or at least you call for her again, and she doesn't respond. Are you going to open your eyes?
Yeah, I'll open my eyes, but I'm going to put the helm on.
Make me a saving throw. No, I'm just kidding. You open your eyes, and what you see is around you there's a 30 by 30 room. All right. In the corner of the room where she was sitting previously when you found her, there is what looks like a table that's there. There's a chair there, and it was the one that she was sitting on when you entered the room. There is a brush, a hairbrush that's there. The hairbrush is made out of ivory with bristles of what looks like the horsehair. It's very elegant, very pretty. And there is a skeleton that is sitting in the chair. Robes, gray robes over it. robe back over the head. The skeleton is just kind of has its head tilted back, like it just like it's looking at the seal.
Is it her dress?
It's yeah. It looks like the same thing that she was wearing before.
She's in skeleton form. She has. This is a physical form.
Yes.
So if I go over there and tap on the shoulder, it's
Dusty.
corporeal.
It's dusty. Yeah. It's corporeal. The bones shift slightly, but doesn't collapse.
Anything at the table other than the
Hairbrush.
brush?
It looks like the wall behind it. There is an oval there, like where you would hang a mirror or
Okay.
a portrait, and it is made out of pure stone, gray stone.
Can I want to investigate the brush itself. I mean, maybe she's connected to the brush. I mean, I don't know. This.
You pick up the hairbrush, and the hairbrush is weird. It's not. Doesn't look like the kind of hairbrush that anybody would use. It's too fine. And then, as you investigate it, you realize why.
It's
There's
for her.
ancient snake scales stuck in it. In
Yeah.
places.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any? Good Lord. Let me preserve the snake scales in the brush.
Okay, how are you going to do that?
I probably have a pouch or something on me that I can.
Go ahead. You put them in there.
But I don't want to take her brush necessarily. I'll leave the brush. Is there any markings on the back of the spine of the brush?
Yeah, there are. They're in that weird language that you didn't understand before.
Take a rubbing of that and just. But I don't want to disturb too much of the temple. So I'll leave her brush where it is. I'm not going to mess with her skeleton until I figure out how to care for it properly. Was there? So if we're looking around her room, is there a secret door in her room?
Go ahead and make me a 6-sider.
6-sider. That's a 5.
As you're all walking around the room, you're very fortunate in that you have a half elf, a full elf, and 2 monks.
Right.
All
it's
people
hard to
who
miss.
are quite good at this kind
hard
of thing.
To miss a secret door. Yeah.
And right behind the place in the wall where the helmet was hanging, there is a secret door there. It's Karak that finds it. It seems to be the same as the one that we found in the other room.
Yeah, let's push it open and investigate. I'm very confused about what's going on here.
Okay.
So let's look at this.
Okay. You
Did he check for traps?
Yeah. No. You do want to check for traps on this one?
I mean, we got 2 monks there. You might as well check for traps. Okay. I mean, of course, I trust you, Carlos. It's just Temple of Hades. I'm not sure about, right?
They both kind of touch the wall. The 2 monks examine it. After about maybe 10 minutes, they both look at you and they have come to the same conclusion that it is not trapped.
Okay. And again, because I think that I'm a little more welcome here than they are, I'll go ahead and push the door open.
Okay, you push the door open.
Yeah.
And as you do, what you find is that there is a 10 by 10 space behind it. In there, on the ground, there's a mat, much like the one that you saw in Dimitros' room.
Okay.
There are many shelves on the wall. These ones are on the east wall of the room. And in the corner of the room, along with that, there is a stringed instrument, about maybe 4 foot tall. It's made out of wood, bleached white wood. The strings look like they're in remarkably good shape. It's covered in dust. It is similar to what you would think of a harp when you think of it, but not quite the same.
Interesting. Okay.
There are vessels of all kinds on the wall. There are there's a couple things that look like there's like 3 silver boxes in there that look like they're tinder boxes, and there's a
For
scroll case that's there.
for lighting sconces, probably.
Maybe.
Um, okay, I'll investigate a little bit in here. Again, I am definitely not trying to disturb anything.
Mhm.
Like I'm trying not to be rude, but I am trying to figure out what's going on here. So, I'll go ahead and look at the tinder boxes, or I mean, it seems like these two were sort of
Will you
devotees.
actually open the tinder boxes?
Yeah.
Okay. When you open the tinder boxes, you find that there's not any kind of they're not tinder boxes at all. What is inside of there in the first one is kind of a whitish powder, like a talcum powder. The second one, when you open it up, it's got this black kind of almost like a really fine like charcoal dust in it. And the third one has this greenish sparkly powder in it.
Okie dokie. That was special. Jesus.
You're not really sure what it is.
Yeah, I get
This
that.
is the life, by the way, of an antiquarian, where you find things and you have no idea what they are.
For sure. For sure. I'm obviously going to be penning a letter to Calissa and Trotty.
Right.
Okay, so you said there were also a number of vessels, and what else on the shelf?
There's a scroll case, and there's, like as you said, that there's a lot of a dust there. There's the earthen vessels that were there. The scroll case. I think that's it. You're investigating the earthen vessels. The earthen vessels are the same kind of decoration and they're the same make as the other ones. Are you going to investigate the insides of these ones?
Are they sealed?
No, they are not.
Yeah, I'll look inside one of them, I suppose.
All of them are filled with dust.
Okay.
Out of the 4 of them, 3 of them are empty. They look as if, looking at the inside of them in the light, it looks like there's residue on the inside of them. They may have been filled with some kind of liquid at one point in time that has just gotten so old that it has evaporated. The last one of them is actually a receptacle, and inside of them, several pieces of parchment are rolled up and stuffed inside of it.
Is there anything on the papers?
Yes, there's writing.
You know what, man? This is such a delicate scenario. I'm going to suggest that my fellows back into the main room.
They do.
And I'm going to
What do you expect to happen?
anything. This is a castle entertainment game. I'm prepared for anything.
He steps backwards. He's like, "Oh, I should have known then."
Yeah.
No, he steps back into the room. They all are looking around. He's now with 100% with Melina, and he's got his weapon out as well.
This is Noric.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to duplicate the. Can I try? So the writing is the same language as the rubbings I've taken so far.
Yeah.
Am I able to, at some level of skill, copy the writing, at least the lines?
Yes. Yes, the writing is simple enough. The characters are not that complicated that you could replicate them.
And this is not. I mean, what I'm getting at is it's not like a italic font or something. I mean, it's kind of straight line.
No, it's very straight line. Extremely straight line.
Can I duplicate what I see on the parchment into my journal?
Yes, you can.
Okay, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to just leave that stuff where I found it.
So you're going to duplicate all of the parchments. What about the one in the scroll case? or or if there's anything in the scroll case at all.
Well, the problem with the scroll case is I don't think I can duplicate magic writing.
if it's magical writing at all.
Right. Yeah, since you're kind of baiting me that way, I'll go ahead and open that scroll case and see what's in it. Yeah, why not?
Scroll case. You open up the scroll case. Weirdly enough, it is a very unusual scroll case. It's made, first of all, out of metal. Usually when you see scroll cases, they're made out of bone in the Flyness. They're either capped with wax or they've had caps made for them. This one's made out of metal, and it takes you a while to figure out how to get it off. It screws off. The top actually screws off.
Huh.
And, there's a rolled up scroll in there. You take it out, and yes, as you expected, on it is the same writing as before. This one, however, is written in some kind of substance. The other ones are written in this black, almost paint, it looks like. This is written in something different. It's written in kind of like a brownish, like a sepia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, does Rainmar know whether or not he can safely duplicate something eldritch?
He could duplicate it, but the problem with duplicating magical writing is a lot of times the paper that it's written on or the ink that's been used in it is magical in nature. It's got some kind of special property that serves as a material component to enact the spell.
Well, I'm not trying to take the spell or duplicate the spell. I just want the language.
Correct. I know.
Okay.
I get that. So what I'm saying is you can duplicate it, but you wouldn't be able to cast it off of your journal.
Yeah, don't care about that. Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
If it is indeed magical at all.
Right, it could just be a religious rite or something. Who knows? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Then I'll go ahead and duplicate that again. I'm not going to disturb anything. I'm going to put everything back where I found it.
Sure.
And in fact, the object of this entire course is going to be to leave everything better than I found it, which means that as I'm picking things up, I'll try to wipe dust off, and we're going to slowly try to get things cleaned up. I feel like the vibe of this thing was kind of, in the last episode, kind of honoring the temple seemed to bring things out of it.
Yes.
And I don't know if, yeah. Anyway, that's where my head's at. So,
and you're not wrong. That was that every time you guys did something that glorified the temple in some way or form or fashion, you were positively rewarded.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other question I had was, and I forgot to ask this in the other room, but what direction did the little bit of smoke that was coming off of the sconces, you said, what direction did the airflow go?
It goes straight up and just gathers on the ceiling.
So it doesn't move. The air is very still.
Yes, and that's part of the problem with this place. And
Got it.
That's what led you to believe that it may not have been used for very long after it was made, because you figure it would have been very apparent that this was a problem, and they would have probably tried to correct it.
Okay. Is there anything else in either Atria's, because I'm assuming I'm in her sleeping quarters right now?
It seems like it.
Okay, so if I've deduced that those secret rooms are their sleeping quarters,
mm-hmm.
the main rooms, Atria's and Demetrius's main rooms, are studies?
It seems like it.
Well, and he had a workbench, so he was actually, okay, so he was carving. What was she doing in her room?
It looks like either she was brushing her hair, or if she's the one responsible for writing the parchments that are on there, she was somehow writing these parchments, but she was doing it with some kind of paint. It occurs to you that maybe that's what the pots were full of.
This will tell you right now how sketched out somebody in your games is. You said it occurs to you, and I heard it cursed you. That'll give you an idea how on edge we are around you. We like you, but we don't like you that much.
Hey, you can like me all you want, but don't trust me. I'm a DM.
Totally,
I'm a
totally.
DM.
Um, so definitely both of them were scribes and both of them were faithful.
Correct.
And it's very possible that he was the faithful of Persephone and she was the faithful of
Hades.
Hades. Okay,
It would stand to reason.
100%. What can I see within? So I make my way out of her room. I'll
Okay.
close the door.
Okay.
I'm leaving everything intact. I'm not taking the brush. I'm not taking the scroll. I'm not taking any of that stuff.
Okay.
Um,
You're back in the hallway.
I'm leaving the room, shutting Atria's room,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking for, other than the Chimera, what else is in this place? As far as hallways and stuff, because I think that's as far as we went.
Yes, that is as far as you've gone. You've explored the area where Demetrius is, and you've explored the hallway on the left-hand side all the way up to the Chimera's room. Now, that leads you to believe that one of two things is true. You have not found a secret door in here, or there is an access way leading away from the Chimera's room inside of it. One of the two things is true. Or I take that back, or there's a third thing, and you've seen everything.
I think the part that I'm having the struggle here with is that if Demetrios is gone and Atria is gone, is the Chimera gone? That's.
There's no way of telling, and what's worse about that is that if you recall, and you do very well recall, when you got there to the Chimera's area, you could not hear it through the wall.
Right.
So you will know once you open that door whether or not the Chimera is there or not.
And there is no other room, hallway, or passage of any kind other than their rooms, the secret rooms within their rooms, and the hallway to the Chimera.
Yes. However, make me a 20.
A 20. Okay. Sure, why not? 18. Not bad.
There are places in this area so far, in this right-hand side of the wall that you've gone, that events occurred that you did not check for secret doors in those areas.
Yeah, I mean, let's do that. Let's look around a little bit because
you're going to scope this entire hallway for secret doors. It's going to take you a couple hours to do, but you're fine with
it. 100%, because I think we're at a point where the Chimera, opening the door to the Chimera, is the last resort.
Make me a 6-sided.
A 6-sided. 4.
Okay. It takes you probably 3 or 4 hours to handle.
Sweet Jesus.
But by the time you're done with it, hey man, the process of looking for secret doors is not something that's done willy-nilly.
There's 4 of us, dude. Come on.
Yeah. So you're heading towards that end of that hallway, right? Where you see on Twitch that goes up to Dimitrios's room, is that corner. Well, hold on for a moment.
No worries. I'm looking at right now a corner in the map.
That is the area that you were going up to Dimitrios's room, right? And if you give me just a moment, here, I'm going to move my map.
What the hell's going on here?
Well, I'm doing some resizing so you can follow my map. So you're heading up the hallway. That was the main room.
Okay.
What happens is you find at the end of that room, as I redo my map here, there is a secret door at the end of the hallway there that you did not find previously, right where you turn north to go to Dimitrios's room. You see the secret door. Are you going to try and open it directly?
Well, yeah. I mean, let's check for traps and open this thing.
Okay. Make me a percentage die, please.
Percentage dice. 3, dude.
Okay.
I've got good rolls tonight, man.
Not too bad. Not too bad. You go ahead and you investigate this secret door, and what you see is, by the time your monks are done with it, both of them tell you that they do not feel that there is any kind of anything harmful to be found there.
Okay. How far are we from the Chimera right now?
Well, you guys are really worried about the Chimera.
Settle down.
Probably about maybe, you figure at least 100 feet and through several feet of solid stone.
So I don't perceive that this secret door will open to the Chimera's room.
No, there's no way it'll open up the Chimera's room unless there's some kind of teleportation effect in effect. There's no way.
Just stop right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it is so far away from that area as you're about to find. So as I can go ahead, I can move my. This is what I meant by the new technology I'm trying to use. It's a little bit. I'm still.
It's okay.
I'm still trying to figure it out a little bit.
Yeah, no worries.
Because I'm.
No
there we go. There we go.
No worries, brother. We're all just hanging out here in the temple of.
Yes, in the fallen temple of Persephone and
Hades, man.
All right, so there we go. You were walking down that corridor that I just illuminated to get to Dimitros's room, and this is what you saw. To the north, it broke off like that, and what you saw then is you open the secret door, and there's a path going forward. How far are you going to investigate it down?
And everything is still lit?
Everything is still lit. It's well lit. You can see about maybe 30 feet down from the door, and this is what you see.
Okay.
There is straight ahead of you an area of about maybe 30 feet ahead. The hallway breaks off to the right, and from your perspective, it breaks off to the right. And there we go, finally. Took me a while there. And then it goes forward as well. Breaks off again to the right, another area that breaks off to the right. And that is about all you can see going forward. Stops pretty much abruptly after that, right there. With two areas that break open to the north and the south. And I'll go back to where you're standing right now.
Okay. Let's go straight ahead.
Okay.
And investigate.
At this point in time, Jeremy, I'd like a marching order for your party. Who's going first? Who's going second, third, whatever.
I think it's a no-brainer to put my my monks in the front.
Okay.
And then
both of them put away their crossbows and go to staffs.
The warg pup I forgot about. Can I just whistle for her and have her?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot it as well.
Yeah, it's all right. We were talking. The whole thing started with a conversation just with Melina, so now I'm catching up.
Okay.
Let's get. I'm going to remind Norik that we're here on peaceful terms, so don't start swinging for no reason.
He looks at you, and it looks like it takes him a second to understand that that's an option, but he nods. He seems to accept that.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Let's move forward. Let's start creeping forward. Okay. Keep your eyes open for not only traps, but for any secret doors. And when we get up ahead a little bit, let's hang to the right.
You mentioned that the monks are in the front. Who is behind them? Second row.
Me.
And then Melina, and then Norik.
Norik and Monty coming up the back.
Okay. That's your crew. You're heading forward. You see that path that breaks off to the north, or by your perspective, it's to the south on the map. Do you pass it, or do you go that direction?
I want to go that direction first. Let's knock out, because basically what I'm trying to do right now is draw a map of this place in my journal.
Okay.
So let's just start by hitting the very first turn. We'll go that way.
Okay. Here's what you see. You head down that direction.
Okay.
Hallway goes forward and breaks off into a little bit what looks like a larger area there, and it also takes a turn immediately to your right as you go down the hallway. And you know what? I'm going to use directions just looking at the map so I don't confuse you. Okay? This is what you see. You see an area that breaks off to the left, an area that kind of looks like a central area. It's hard to see what it does there.
Okay.
And it continues on to the south.
Okay, let's check out the area to the left.
Okay, you begin down the area to the left. Take a turn down that area.
And we're checking for stuff along the way.
Okay. Make me a percentage die.
So excuse me. Yeah, 97. Yeah.
Okay. What you see when you open up the you go through down that hallway, there is a 20 by 20 room, an area chamber that looks it looks uninhabited to you. There's sconces on the wall to the north and to the south where it looks like torches might have been. In this particular area, you can see the remainder of the torches. They're very primitive. They're burned out completely. Okay, they're just the remainders of them. It looks like whatever happened here, they were burning when it happened. Okay, that whatever the last moments of this temple were before either somebody left it or whether they all died in here or whatever happened.
Okay.
They were burning. The back wall of the room, which is the one by your perspective to the west, all right? That area, there is a large mural that's been carved on the wall there. And on the in the southeast corner by your perspective, there is a it looks like somebody has there's like a pile of clothing there. It looks like discarded clothing.
Okay, what's in the center of the room?
Center of the room is completely empty.
Ceiling. Okay. In the hallway, as we made our way, is the ceilings also darkened by torchlight?
Yes, but less so. It looks like there's because the torches the light tended to collect in the ceilings where the sconces were. It didn't travel all that far down the hallway in a lot of places, so it's less so in the hallways, more so in the rooms.
Let me investigate the mural, the carving, whatever, the relief, whatever it is.
As you walk through the room, you look at the wall, and the wall, like I said, it's about 10 foot tall. There's a massive carving in the wall. Like you said, it's more like a relief. It's about maybe 3 inches deep, carved into the white marble of the wall.
Cool.
And what it shows is it's a look at the ground level. And on the ground level is standing a woman, or excuse me, a woman. And she's very attractive by that culture, it looks like. She's got a little garland in her hair. She's got flowing toga. Hair is all done up. There's something that's coming down from the sky, and it's grabbing her wrist. A particular a figure is doing that. Behind the figure, the sun silhouettes this figure. Meanwhile, from the ground, hands of another figure are reaching up, and they're trying to hold the legs of this person, and it's like pulling it in 2 directions. writing all the way across the floor. From wall to wall, it stretches across the floor in 3 lines. It looks very elaborate. Same language as before, same style as before. It just looks like it's a very complex sentence that's being used.
I'm going to. I can't do a rubbing of this entire relief.
No.
Can I make a rough drawing of this relief?
Yes, you can. And as a matter of fact, this is another place in which it's a great pretext for your character in the future. You're developing your art skill. So, I need you to roll me a 20-sider. Let's find out what kind of artist you are.
2.
Okay.
Not a great artist.
No, actually, that's what you wanted to do, is you wanted to roll really low.
Oh, okay.
You're drawing it, and Melina is standing over your shoulder. The orc is standing over your shoulder. The orc's kind of looking at it like, trying to figure out what side's what and whatever. Melina seems pretty impressed, though. The monks are kind of looking at it up and down.
What I'm going to do is, as we go through here, I'm just kind of mentally preparing notes and stuff for Calissa and Trotty.
Okay.
The goal is going to be to get her a good rough estimation of what this temple is all about, what it contains.
The monks are looking over at the pile of clothing, and they look back at you, and they wait until you have a break in what you're doing, and they look at you and they say, "All this is burned."
And the clothes are burned?
Yeah, it looks like they piled clothes here and they burned them.
Well, there's a couple of reasons why you'd do that. One of them would be because of a sickness. You're trying to burn
some knots all the way around.
The other reason would be that these clothes are old and the rags were being used to soak oil for torches. Let me finish up getting a rubbing of these sentences and then.
I think perhaps Melina says that these people, perhaps from where they came, they did not have the same diseases that we do, and they fell prey to something that is common here.
Yeah, it seems possible.
She nods. The orc just kind of is looking at all of it. He looks a little bored more than anything.
Not enough action for him. Before this is over, I'll throw him in the room with the chimera.
There's plenty of action to be found there.
Amen, brother.
Okay, so you do the drawing of it. It feels to you, and it just feels that way, like it's probably getting around midnight right now outside.
Okay.
The night is encroaching on the day pretty fast.
Okay. Is there any secret doors in this room?
You're checking it, and
you need percentile.
Your group does not see any secret doors.
Okay. Do I feel if I step back and I look at the room, do I feel like I've been able to map it?
Yeah, you feel like by the time you're done with your drawing, and by the time you're done with the writing, you feel pretty good about that you've captured it, the totality of it.
Okay. Okay.
You don't feel like you've left anything out. You feel like you've gotten a pretty good handle on it.
If that's the case, then I'm going to move on to you said there was another little turn off to the right.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So you go ahead and you leave the room, leave the area. And this is what you see. The chimera has come around and... No, I'm just kidding.
What's wrong with you? We don't have that kind of time. That's another episode of Castle Talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you walk out of there. And which direction are you going to go to?
Hang on. I'm looking at the map right now. You said it was a right that I missed.
Yes, previously it was.
Yeah, let's back. So let's exit the room and then take that little turn to the right.
Okay. So you go ahead, and as you go to the right, first of all, you see that little alcove in there. It's a 10 by 10 alcove. Kind of forms a C there that you see on the map. At the back of that is a statue that stands there.
Okay.
The statue is of a figure that almost goes to the ceiling. It's about 9 foot tall. It's carved completely of stone, of white marble. It is a man who is kind of got a very noble pose to him. He stares directly down at you from where he stands. His pedestal looks like it's been carved in the way to form a cloud or something. There is a very simple phrase at the bottom of it, written in that weird language that you don't understand. And in his hand, he holds a trio of what looks like lightning bolts, but they are actually made out of gold, not stone.
Okay.
Orc is looking at those real careful.
Look but don't touch.
It's worth a fortune.
Well, you'd never live long enough to spend it.
He nods. He goes, "You think they're trapped?"
I think it's more likely that statue will come alive and kill us all.
Look but don't touch. Got it.
Good thinking. I'm glad you thought of it. I'll go ahead and take a rubbing of, and again, this is going to be the same deal. I'll take a rubbing of the text. I will do a rough drawing of the statue, maybe from more than one perspective, because I think, yeah. So maybe like from the front perspective, and then maybe a 45 just to cover it a little bit better.
And you're working on it. It's taking a little bit of time.
While I'm doing that, can I get them?
Yeah, go ahead.
While I'm doing that, can I get them to check around the room?
You sure can. And while you're doing it, Melina looks over at a couple of them, and she kind of confides in you to the side. She says, "I think that some of the members of our group are growing weary."
Okay.
Perhaps we should get some rest.
Sure. Okay, let's head back up to the...
No secret doors, everybody says, looking at you.
Okay, I have a map now.
Yes.
From the entrance of the cairn to both of their rooms, to the hallway with the chimera,
right,
down this door, to the relief, to the statue of Zeus.
Correct. You assume it's Zeus.
Well, I mean, that's a meta game. I mean, Rainmar doesn't have his name, but I was thinking it's Lightning Bolt. Okay, then if that's the case, and I feel like I've documented that room fairly well, was there anything else in that room with the Lightning Bolt guy?
No.
Okay, in that case, we'll make our way back up to the... That's fine if everybody's being...
Before you go away, we're just about ready to leave, and Karak looks at you. He says, "There is one thing I just noticed." He said, taps at the bottom of the pedestal. He goes, "This is hollow. None of the other ones have been hollow."
There's one more thing I want to check. I'll check that as well. But the other thing I want to check is, are the lightning bolts in his hand part of the statue, or are they removable from the statue?
No, it looks like they're removable.
Okay, then for the sake of... If I remove one of them and I study it, is there any writing on the bolts at all?
Looking at them... Yes, but it's along the edge of them. The bolts are very thin, okay? They're probably only maybe an eighth of an inch thick, okay? And it is written all the way around the edge of the bolts, each one of them, in that strange language.
As I examine the bolts, are each of the bolts the same writing?
Yes.
Interesting. I'll go ahead and use a piece of paper to spine so I get this effect.
Right.
And do a rubbing the full length around.
Okay.
But ultimately put the bolts back in the hand. Okay, what's in the secret?
He says that I don't know how this thing opens. Jonas says. I've been looking at it. Doesn't seem like there's any obvious way to open it. Maybe we're supposed to lift the statue up.
And it didn't open when I removed all 3 bolts from his hand?
Nope.
Did anything happen when I removed all the bolts from his hand?
Nope.
What about when I put them back in?
Nothing.
Are there any details about his dress or the statue itself that would act as a button or an activator of some kind for that?
You're roll me a percentage die.
9.
You don't find anything as you look and inspect it. You take a good 20 minutes to look it over and nothing. Nothing seems. In fact, the stone seems really smooth. You're tapping at the rest of the stone all the way around. It seems solid. But he's right. The pedestal is hollow.
Is the pedestal hollow because the pedestal is mobile? Can we shift the statue? Does it slide?
You feel like if you did that, it would be so top heavy it would fall.
Interesting. Any thoughts, guys, on...
Melina looks at it. She says, "It vexes me that we don't understand the language." And the monks know. Jonas says, but the possibility is that maybe it's some kind of magical container. Maybe you needed to. Maybe we need to have some kind of a command word, or maybe it's wizard locked or something.
Okay, I'll make a note of it in my journal. Let's go up and get some shut eye.
Okay, where are you guys gonna go for the night to sleep?
I'm gonna suggest that. Okay, so we got Brixton, Arion, Lily, and Sunny in the front area set up.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else up there? No, that's it.
Nope, that's it.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll go to.
Oh, and the Chimera, which has eaten them all by now.
Anyway, so I'll go to the. Whatever. I'm going to go to Demetrius. I think I'm going to go to Demetrius's room.
Okay.
And suggest that we all kind of bunk up there for the night, lay out bedrolls, and see if we can.
Okay. I need you to make me a 20-sider.
15.
Okay, you go to sleep, and that night you have a very odd dream. You have a dream that you're walking around in this deep purple smoke. It's covered. It's scentless. It's tasteless. It just surrounds you completely, and you hear the sound of dogs barking, and you smell. You smell what smells like burning incense. The sound of dogs barking are all around you. It's kind of this. It's a fearful dream. It's more of like almost like a night terror than a dream. You're remembering this. You're thinking about this dream. The dogs are all around you. You don't know what to do, and finally the smoke kind of peels off to the north of you, and there is an altar there. The altar is a lot like the one that you saw before, with the bowl in it, but on this one, behind it on the wall, this wall of white marble, ivy grows up and down it. Flowers are blooming off of it. And as you get closer to the altar, you seem to feel safe. Like it's not, like you don't, the dogs don't want to go near it. And the ivy resting, the last thing you remember on it is the ivy. There's all kinds of colorful butterflies on the ivy, like a neon pinks and bright greens, and then you wake up. As you wake up, Karak and brother Jonas are sitting in the room. They're eating rations. There's a sound right next to your head of a growling.
Oh.
And you roll over, and it's the wolf called Monty, who's curled up in a little ball on her back, and she's kind of moving her legs a little bit and growling in her sleep.
So she's having a dream. Okay, let me get some food together for Norik and Melina.
Okay.
You said, okay.
Yeah, Norik is nowhere to be seen, actually, when you look around.
Oh, okay. I tell Monty to go find him.
You wake up Monty. Monty wakes up. When you wake her up, she's startled. She looks around. She goes, "Fire wolves!
Fire
wolves! Where fire wolves?"
Right. Okay. Do me a favor and go find my orc, and then we'll talk about the fire wolves, all right? We got to make sure everybody's fed
She
here.
walks probably about 15 feet away from you. She looks like she's trying to shake off the dream. Just outside the door, she stops and she turns around. You see Norik's head pop around from outside the door. He was outside the room standing guard.
Did you get some breakfast?
No, I haven't eaten anything yet.
Go check with the gnome girls. They tend to make breakfast.
He nods. Goes, "Don't you want me to stand guard?"
I think I got her kind of ready to bite things, so it's going to be good enough.
Looks down at that thing. Goes, "That's a warg. That's not a wolf."
Well, she's a lot of things. So, but I'm okay. You know how everybody's terrified of her? Yeah. I'm kind of comfortable with her around, so just go get yourself something to eat, come back.
She's going to get a lot bigger, Puts his sword from the chief over the shoulder. He looks over back behind you before he goes out the hall. He goes, "A lot bigger." And he walks away.
I certainly hope so.
When he walks away, Melina opens her eyes. She's kind of like sitting in Indian style in the corner of the room. She opens up her eyes and looks at you. "Good morning."
Is it?
Has her sword across her lap. She says, "I think so."
Tell me about your dream.
How did you know I had a dream?
Oh, well, because I think we both did, and I think this mangy little warg here had a similar dream.
I had a dream in which I was surrounded in smoke and it was on fire. It was burning my hair, my skin, and I ran from it, and I found a sanctuary. And when I did, it was like the smoke, the burning smoke, it wouldn't touch me.
Okay.
It was rather disturbing, she says.
Yeah, well, I had pretty much the exact same dream. Except for with more dogs.
dogs, she says.
Yeah, kind of like mad, pissed
Didn't
off.
hear dogs, see dogs in mine.
Really?
No.
What did the sanctuary look like to you?
It was a block of. It was not unlike the altar at the front of the that we passed before that you put an offering into. Except there were flowers and there were, I don't know, moths, she says. It's difficult to remember.
Okay, that's consistent with my experience. Um, well, now you've got me thinking I need to investigate that that entrance a little bit closer. So I'll do that
Okay.
right now.
You're going to go all the way back out to the front?
Well, it's not that far
Okay.
from Demetrius's room.
No. I just wondered all that way. Okay,
Yeah.
so you go up to the front. Breakfast is in the middle of being cooked. The rest of the group is over there. Lily and Sonny greet you and you say there. We were worried sick about you. Where'd you guys go?
Well, I got a little curious about what was down here deeper, so we're doing some investigation, and if you guys would hold the front line here, I'd appreciate it, because
Well, that's what Ariane said we should do. So
yeah, we're just I got a little bit of research I'm doing for Calissa and Trotty, and
who's Calissa and Trotty? Sonny says she's a wizard. She's with us. Oh, okay.
Nice job, girls. Okay, so am I of the opinion that what I put in the bowl affected our dreams?
Hard to say.
Okay.
Not really. Maybe. I don't know.
Okay, and the stuff that I put in the bowl is still there.
Yes, it is still there. Make me a percentage die roll. And thanks for coming, Jason. We really appreciate you being around. Watch us this evening.
That's a 15.
Okay. You notice something that you didn't notice before about the bowl. Well, because it wasn't there, clearly. It looks to you like there's insects in the bowl now. Looks like a couple butterflies are in there now. Normal butterflies. One's kind of yellowish. One is kind of multicolor, kind of a pastel. They're crawling over the wolfsbane that you put in there. Sprinkle wolfsbane. Looks like they're eating it.
What about the iron rations and the chrysanthemum petals?
Iron rations. You couldn't really tell that the iron rations were there because the bit of carrot from the iron ration that's there has grown into a full brace of 3 carrots. The nuts that were in there are now in their shells. There's like a whole bunch of nuts that have gathered up at the bottom of the bowl. Yeah, there's the raisins have become a thing of grapes in there that look like they were just cut from the vine.
I'll eat a grape.
Okay, it's delicious.
It doesn't negatively affect the room if I eat the grape?
Not at all.
Okay. Anything special about the butterflies if I investigate them closer?
You look at them. They're native to Radek. It looks like the only thing that occurs to you that is weird is well, actually, make me a 20.
7.
Okay. It's way too cold for butterflies to be here.
Okay.
They would have died. They would have died outside.
Yeah, it would have been. It's spring. It would have to be spring. Yeah. This is freaking fascinating. So in my dream, there was ivy growing behind the statue in the
Yeah,
front.
that's not here. You don't see it here.
Yeah, but it makes me want to investigate the ivy, the thing. So can I look around the statue differently this time? Because I didn't.
You're doing all this, and Sunny kind of comes over. She goes, "What are you doing?"
Looking for ivy.
Oh, okay. She
Thanks.
says, she kind of looks over at Lily like, I think he's crazy now. You're looking at the back wall. There's nothing there. There's just that statue. The ebon dark statue. It still has that little smile on its face. It's still looking down at the bowl. There's nothing behind the statue that you see. Nothing on the wall.
The chrysanthemum petals, what do those look like in the bowl?
Those have grown into full-length flowers. They're still cut at the ends, but they've grown into full-length flowers.
Huh. Well, isn't that special? So the bowl is renewing anything that I put in it.
It seems like it. Make me a 20-sider.
Yeah, sure. That's a 6.
The chrysanthemums, actually, that you notice about them, depending on how you look at them in the light, they change color, like they're iridescent. Like how really fine glass or diamond does sometimes when it's cut at different angles.
But if I touch them, they're still leaves.
Yeah, they're still leaves. Never seen a chrysanthemum like that before. Melina sees you looking at them, and she says, "The mistress grew these in her garden. I accompanied Agrias there at one point."
So did I.
Oh, that's right, you did. I'm sorry, forgive me. I thought you weren't there for that. Yeah, this is the kind of flower that she grew in her garden.
Yeah, because I just had petals from when I made the fletchings on the arrows.
Right, forgive me. I'd forgotten that you went down there to recover. I thought you were given those, but you're right. You did get them.
Yeah, I cut them, and that's why I put them in the bowl. But
yeah,
now
they've actually grown into full-length prismatic chrysanthemums. And if you don't mind yourself saying so, they're healthier than the ones that were in the mistress's garden.
Is there... But I can't plant them because they're cut. Interesting. As an experiment, I'm going to pluck a petal off of one of them and drop it in the bowl.
You take a petal and you drop it in the bowl. Okay. You take it off of one of the healthy ones.
Yeah.
Okay. You put it in the bowl. Nothing happens.
Okay. Good enough. What do I see?
But you also remember that this wasn't that way when you left before. It may just take time.
It takes time. Yeah. That's the experiment. Yeah. Excuse me. So, studying the statue of who I'm assuming is Hades, is there anything in the back wall behind it that...
You're studying the statue. You're looking at the back wall. You do not see anything right away that you think looks like something odd, like a secret door or a panel or anything like that. As you're doing that, the monks and everything start to look. Even Sunny and Lily chip in. There's nothing back there on the wall.
You know, I'm going to have to think about this dream over the course of the next couple of days before we have another game, because the dream is going to screw me. Okay, let's get back on track with what we were doing and documenting the full scope of the temple.
Okay, you've eaten. You have a good breakfast first thing in the morning. You find that the orc refuses to eat anything that is not meat. and he only eats meat that's undercooked. He eats a lot like Monty does, actually.
That's an interesting experiment. I want to take some of our meat, our strips of meat, put them in the bowl.
Okay, you do that.
Okay, all right. Because now I got to, I got to work in the family. I got to.
You're not gonna eat that.
Settle down.
He looks at you.
So we're gonna head back down. I tell Norik I want him on his blade,
Mm-hmm.
and
Everybody gets their weapons out. Everybody's ready to go.
Okay, same marching order. I ask the two gnome girls to kind of hang out front and just wait, and I'll be back in a little while.
Okay. You notice this entire time that Arion and Brixton have been kind of conspiring between themselves. Okay. You're not even sure they're aware of you. Are you good? They look at you. We can tell them that you're here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to delve back down to the. Well, first of all, so Demetrius never showed up again.
Never again.
What happened when I put the helm on?
When you put the helm on, you felt different. When you put the helm on, first of all, make me a percentage dice and then roll me a 20.
Okay, percentage dice is 73, and my 20 is 5.
You put the helmet on, you felt different. You feel like you're calmer. You feel like you feel more clear of thought, like your thoughts are more arranged, like you're more logical. You feel like your entire skin is warmer all over. Not hot, not burning, just warm, like you're standing in the sun, like the sunshine. And the light within this area is completely clear now. It is not, you know that the light is no brighter, but you can see perfectly well in here, like it was outside daytime noon.
Okay.
On a sunny day.
I'll keep it on then, because if I don't feel like it's detracting from my study, in fact, quite the opposite. It sounds like it's actually sharpening my.
It does. You feel like it's sharpening your senses a bit. It feels like you feel sharper of mind, a little more agile of thought, maybe.
Okay. Then I want to use the helm while I'm doing my drawings and stuff.
Okay. As you're doing your drawings, you definitely notice a difference in your artwork. You are a much better artist than you were before.
Cool.
It's almost like you're getting ready to draw something and your hand starts to move a little bit in a direction you maybe didn't want it to go a little bit, or you get like this idea, what if I did it this way? It's like this little burst of inspiration, and then wow, that really worked out well.
But it's not I don't get the sense that the helmet is sentient.
No, you don't get the idea that it's sentient. You get the idea that it maybe is unlocking inspiration inside of you.
Okay, so it's not possession, it's inspiration.
Yes.
Okay. What about if I look at the language with the helmet on?
You don't understand the language, but the patterns make more sense to you.
Okay.
You're getting a rhythmic pattern in it, and you're getting a sensation of, this is not far away from my reach. If I studied this for a long time, even without anybody instructing me, I think I could get this.
Okay. I don't hate that. From a player perspective, do I have to focus specifically on the study of the language, or can I, since I'm already doing that, is it sort of incidental to my process?
It would be incidental to your process.
Okay, then I'm just going to keep...
Provided you're wearing the helmet. the entire time.
Yeah, I'll keep the helmet on as long because I don't sense that there's something negative about the helm.
Yeah.
I'll keep the helmet on, especially if it's improving my artwork.
Yes, it is definitely improving your artwork.
Uh,
You also get the impression that if you were to play music, you feel like it would probably improve that too, because you keep thinking back to your guitar. You keep thinking about that lyre or that harp that was in the other room, and you feel like you want to play.
um, then I'm going to do that as we're making our way back down to the under part of the temple. I'll stop at her room, at Atria's room, and um,
Make me a 20.
20, 19.
As you get there and you start to play it, right away you grab a copper out of your pocket and you start to use it along the strings, and you start to play, and you're playing a song, and everybody's just kind of sitting in the room listening to you. And it takes you probably about 3 or 4 minutes to realize that you had absolutely no instruction on it. You did not know to use a copper. You did not know how to strum this thing the right way, and it just was right there. You just knew. You just knew. And you're playing it, and the people seem very enwrapped by it.
If I switch to my, is there any markings on the harp?
No.
Okay. If I switch to my guitar, does it have the same effect?
No, because you already know how to play guitar. But when you do play it, you feel like you're doing a couple things that you just feel like experimenting, screwing around, and you're doing some things with it that you've never done before, and they're all working. It's like almost like you just know certain techniques that you didn't know before.
Okay, claircognizance kind of deal.
It's really, really strange that it's just like this momentary inspiration. Well, what if I tried this? I've never tried this before. I think, oh, wait a second. If this sounds like this, and like pieces are clicking in your brain that never clicked before. It's like, oh, if this works like this and this works like this, what if I did this? Oh, wow, that sounds really good.
Okay.
And everybody in the room universally tells you every time you're done with a song that it is far better than anything you've ever played before.
I'm going to keep the harp with me, but with intention of returning it to her room.
The harp is a little too big to carry with you. Like I said, it's about 4 foot tall. It's
sorry. My bad.
You figure it's probably over 150 pounds.
Okay, well, yeah, let's not do that then. What I do want to do real quick is now that I'm getting the idea of how the helmet is affecting me, I want to look through my journal at my notes of the temple so far and see if anything is revealed.
Make me a 20 or a percentage.
I've got a 58. Yeah.
No, but you do remember something.
Okay.
The last words that Demetrius said to you were, "My duty is fulfilled."
His duty is fulfilled.
Those were the last words he said to you.
He said that to me when I took the helm or when Agrias disappeared?
Right before Agrias disappeared, you were talking about the Chimera. And he was talking about duty, how he hadn't fulfilled its duty. Like he was having a conversation with some other people, and he said to the group collectively, "My duty is done."
His duty was done in regards to the Chimera? Or
it wasn't clear exactly how he said it. He just said, "My duty is done."
Okay.
And it's occurring to you now that he must have gone to his gods. My duty is done. I've done what I was supposed to do here. I'm out, y'all.
And the same thing with Atria, probably.
Almost certainly.
And do I get the sense that the Chimera would remain behind as a guardian?
You get the sense that it has not completed its duty.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay.
You're thinking that what's happening here, based on everything you found out and learned, is there are things that are still here and there are things that are not still here.
Right.
And is because either they have not completed some kind of duty that they were here placed specifically for, or they're guardians and perhaps they're cursed to be here forever.
Okay.
Um,
Um,
but there's something that binds them here, and it's clearly that is why Atria and Demetrius are gone to you. That much is clear to you now.
they're not bound. They're no longer bound to the temple.
Correct. They are free. They're unfettered now and can go to their reward.
Okay. That's too bad because I wanted to talk to him. But that's all right.
It also occurs to you that Demetrius didn't make this place by himself. There's
Right.
got to be. There's probably more than him here still.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Let's. With that in mind, let's go back to the room with the relief
Okay, you're there.
of the Persephone room, I guess.
That was not the Persephone room. That was the. Oh well, you assumed it to be a Persephone room. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I assumed
It's
it
the
to be
room
a
where things were obviously vying over something in the middle of the room.
So that was the relief, and then 3 sentences of.
Yes.
So, okay, I'm looking at the relief now with the helmet on. Is there any more insight from it? Anything clearer stand out to me? Like maybe that it's not Persephone.
Yeah, the foreshortening on the arm coming from the sky is done poorly. You think you could do a better job of it. The ground strikes you as probably unrealistic. It would be better if a artist would have taken it and used the relief to give it dimension on the grass and the flowers.
Okay.
It gives you you're looking at it. You're also filled with one other emotion. There's a sensation, an emotion that you do not feel previously.
Okay.
Jealousy, a bit of anger that you didn't feel before when you looked at it, like almost disgust. Not necessarily with the art, but something about it, and almost like a need for revenge.
On who?
It's not really clear. You just feel with that emotion, like I got to get back at them.
Oh, weird.
And it's obvious enough to you. The feeling is obvious enough that Melina actually looks at you and asks you if you're all right.
I think I will be. I have a strange feeling of anger and jealousy, which may be related to this relief specifically. But I don't want to take the helm off quite yet because I want to examine those feelings.
Perhaps it's best if we leave the room.
Yeah, let's go across to the lightning bolt guy.
Okay. You look at it. You go over to the lightning bolt, which is right over here.
And I want to, with the helm on now, I want to examine where they said the hollow was beneath the statue.
Well, yeah, you look at it, and look at the hollow, and the first thing you feel when you look at it is again, before you looked at this thing and it was really kind of a nothing. It was just like a sculpture. A strange sculpture from a weird culture, but you can't help but look at this and feel a little bit of pride when you look at it now. The art is poorly done. The arm isn't right. The lightning bolts, they're wholly unrealistic, and the lettering of them, whoever did them, did a terrible job. But at the same time, you can't help but feel this weird sense of pride when you're around it. And the hollow is clearly, it's obvious that it's magically, and it's a magically enabled containing device to you.
Okay.
Yeah, that much is obvious.
can I tell if with that helm on? Can I tell? Am I inspired to take the lightning bolts with me?
Oh no. Oh no, no, that's not your place.
Okay, cool.
And that's the
Uh,
exact feelings and words that come into your mind. Is it's not my place.
it's not my place to remove the bolts, or it's not my place to use the bolts,
It's not
or
your place to hold the bolts, to have them in your possession.
is it my place to wear the helm?
You don't get any feeling one way or another about that.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So we've checked this room already, I think, for secret doors and
You
stuff.
did.
Yeah, because that's how we came across the hollow.
You did.
Okay. I'm gonna try to look at those words again.
You're looking at the words, and by now, the phrase on it, because it's so simple, I mentioned before, it was a very simple phrase, and you have looked at enough of these characters enough with the helm on. It's a name. You know it's a name. You don't know how the letters would sound.
Okay.
But it's got to be a name.
Okay, it's a nameplate of some kind.
Yeah, it's a name.
Okay, let's go deeper in. I want to have, so with my journal, I'm doing a couple of things. I'm taking the rubbings, I'm doing drawings of the things that I see, but I'm also drawing a map.
Okay. Which direction are you going to go? You're looking at the map right now on Twitch.
Oh, excuse me, I'm on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
Where am I on this thing now?
That C-shaped alcove is where the statue is.
And opposite that was the relief?
No, the relief was, if you look just north of that on the map, that hallway goes to the relief room.
Oh, gotcha.
And the hallway going north of that, all the way to the north, is where that's the direction you came from.
Got it. Okay, so then I'd like to go just directly across from the C alcove.
Okay.
Because I haven't been there yet, right? To that.
Nope, you haven't been there yet. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. You begin to do that. And heading down in that direction, there is what you see right here. Above you, directly to the north, that area where there's like a threshold there. There's on the ground something that has moldered to dust in the threshold. It looks like there's enough of it left to determine it was wood. It looks like it was a door at one time that's just rotted up and disintegrated onto the floor. You're close enough to that room to notice this about it. And yes, I'm getting better at this now with this technology. This is like a big 20 by 30 C-shaped area right over here. On the wall, in both corners, there are mats. In between the two of them, there is what looks like some kind of arrangement of shelves. There are clothing or some kind of textiles like garments, or maybe some kind of you're not close enough to see, maybe some kind of blankets or something that are all up and down along it. On the other wall opposite of that, there is another shelf that's kind of low to the ground, and it is empty.
Can I just yeah, let me just start by investigating my way through the contents of the shelves, I guess.
Okay, you're looking at the shelves, and yes, that's exactly what they are. They're garments and blankets. They're they're made out of very rough, very uncomfortable material. It looks like whoever made them was an inexpert weaver or an inexpert craftsman. And whoever did it was had the worst sense of design ever, as far as you're concerned. They're aesthetically ugly as hell. Um, they're too drab. You would never wear anything like that. They're way too drab. Um, they're the sensation of it just it looks like it might have been for like a family. This area, it might have been where they lived at one point in time. Uh, the empty shelf over there, there's a thick coat of dust on it. It hasn't been disturbed in a long time. The threshold to the north is just like that of the south, in which there is some look like there was a door there once that has now decayed to rot.
Okay. Let me go ahead and make my way
North
to the top of the C.
Okay.
And I'll enter that next C to the right by going up and to the right.
Correct. Okay, you do that.
And I'm getting the sense here that I'm looking at almost like monk quarters.
Okay. There is an area to the north and the area to the south. Looking in the area to the south, once again, and yes, you do get that kind of very distinct monastic feeling.
Yeah.
But then again, it stands to reason to you. You are aware or have become aware that this is a temple of some kind. As such, it stands to reason that it would be aesthetes that live here. So, sure. You're looking at a room over there, and once again, this looks like it might have been where a family might have dwelled. All along the back wall, there are 3 sets of rolls. The one in the one in the middle is very small. Looks like maybe for an infant. The top along the east and the west walls near the north, there are shelves over there again. One of them, the one on the left, again has piled textiles and piled garments of some kind. The one on the right has vessels of some sort. And there's also some kind of tools that are there.
I'll take a look at the tools and the vessels.
Okay. As you look at them, you see that the tools are definitely chiseling and carving tools. Looking inside of the vessels, one of them is empty, and it looks again like maybe the other one that was evaporated. One of them still has fluid of some kind in there, all the way to the top. It's without pouring any out or anything, it's hard to tell what it is. The other 2, it looks like there is dried black substance in there of some kind.
Ink?
Yes, clearly to you.
What about the one that's full?
You look at it, smell it. How you want to investigate it?
Well, is it ink? I mean, I guess.
No, it is not ink. It's clearly full, and it's clearly aqueous still.
Which is almost impossible. Unless I guess it could be alcohol. Do the monks have any idea? They're aesthetes themselves.
Yeah, they look at it, and the Brother Karak kind of looks over. He gives a smell. He goes, looks over his shoulder. He goes, wine.
I'd like to. There's no sign of anybody here. There's no apparition or ghost or anything.
No one here yet.
All right, let's move forth. Let's go around the bend of this. Is there any secret stuff?
You look at for secret doors and everything, you see nothing in this chamber. Okay, you leave the room.
Yeah. And we'll go around to the right again this time. I see there's another opportunity to...
Okay. You go ahead to the right. As you walk out of here, you look to the north because you're looking straight in. You see a great columned area. It extends quite a distance into the room.
Oh yeah, cool.
Hold on for a second. I went the wrong way with that.
That's all right. I see what you're talking about now.
It went a great distance into there. Yeah, but you didn't see exactly what I was trying to get at.
No.
It's a great columned area like that. And as you walk in deeper, at the very back of it, along the wall, you see an altar that's there. A great stone slab with a bowl on it. And behind it, ivy grows all up and down the wall. Lush ivy. Butterflies flutter around, colorful butterflies fly all around it in the light. It is clearly the one from your dream.
What's in the bowl?
You can't see from where you're at. It's about 60 feet away, and it is. It not only is it about 60 feet away, but it's concave, the bowl, so it's impossible to see what's in it.
I'm going to ask Brother Karak to bring the wine with us.
He grabs the bottle of wine, or the jug of wine. He looks at you and says, whatever you do, don't try and drink this. He says it's been out for too long. It's probably spoiled.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm not going to. Let's move toward the... So is there a statue
Orc
behind
looks
the
back
bowl?
at it and goes, that's when it's best to drink.
Settle down. Just you right now, dude. I need you to worry about your sword and nothing else. Okay.
You walk in the room. You see those columns that you can see that are indicated on the map. The columns are made of what looks like volcanic glass. They're utterly black. But as you get closer, they are not glass at all. They're just black stone. You have never seen that kind of stone in Radek around before. But there it is.
So behind the bowl is the statue of whom?
There is no statue. There's just a bowl. And there's ivy that grows all up and down the wall.
What's in the bowl?
You look at inside the bowl, it looks to you like lilies.
Lilies.
Lilies. The butterflies are lighting on it. They're drinking out of the... There's actually a hummingbird in there.
What's the inspiration I get from the helm?
The sense of covetousness. A sense of mild of jealousy. A mild sense of anger, but overwhelming covetousness.
Interesting. I'm just going to suggest that everybody look around the room for anything special.
Make me a 6-sider, please.
Yeah, 6-sider. That's a 4.
Monty is very interested in of course, in the butterflies and the hummingbird that are buzzing around there. He's never seen them. It's clear to you that he's never seen these kind of things before, especially hummingbirds. But so as you look around the room, Melina looks over at you and she says, "I think I found something."
Okay, tell me about it.
There is not only one, but there are 2 secret doors in this room that extend to the north and to the south.
Okay.
There we go. There we go. That's a good look at them. They leave the room to the one north and one south. They both extend heading westward.
Are they secret doors that go to the same passage, or secret doors that go to separate passages?
They look like they're separate. It's hard to tell because the doors are the wall is still. You haven't tested them yet. You haven't
Okay.
opened either one of them yet.
Yeah, let's go ahead and check that out, and then
Which one are you going to open first?
let's go to the left.
The one, so it's the bottom of the screen by my perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead and you do that. By doing that, you walk in and you find the following. And now you can see why I was a busy boy today.
Mm-hmm.
There's a room about 30 by 30 over there. Okay. When you open the door right away, the scent of turned earth is there. Okay. Along the wall, there are several pots. There looks like there's gardening tools, handmade gardening tools along the north wall. There are some folded robes, it looks like, and things like that along the south wall. There's a bag of seeds, it looks like, a couple piled up on top of each other.
A bag of seeds.
Mm-hmm. Two bags of seeds that are piled up on top of each other, and you can only tell because it looks like the bag has ripped slightly, and they're pouring out along the side a little bit. And when they're pouring out along the side, there are full-grown lilies on the ground right next to it, and there's a bit of grass that is underneath them that comes right out of the marble.
Without the soil.
Without the soil.
I have two.
Make me a 20.
18.
The first thing that you think about is that the lilies are grown so slightly. They remind you of the kind that are in the bowl out in the front. You think these things started to grow probably at the same time that you brought light into the temple. They probably weren't here then, before then. Also, you feel like stomping on those lilies. You feel like crushing them underneath your foot. They just they invoke kind of just this visceral reaction in you that you're kind of like that. It's that sense of, at the same time it's longing, at the same time it's anger, it's jealousy, it's covetousness. You just feel like lashing out at them.
Can I document that?
Yeah.
The sensations that I'm having with the helm?
Yeah.
I want to run a quick experiment. Do I also get the feeling that the ivy is the same way? Like it probably started growing when I brought light back to the temple.
It's way bigger. It's way more elaborate than the ivy that was out there. But ivy grows fast, so you're thinking probably. The only outlier to you when you're looking at it all is the animal life and the insect life. The fact that there's a hummingbird there. The fact that there's butterflies there. That's weird to you. Because the other stuff you could associate with growing out of the pot. The other stuff, not so much.
Okay, so there's something post-divine going on here. I want to do an experiment. I want to write my notes on what I'm experiencing with the helm on, with the helm on.
Okay.
Then I want to take the helm off, write the exact same thing.
When you write the feelings down the first time, it's a really good order that you did this in, because you did it the first time, and what came out in the paper was this visceral, venomous diatribe of anger, of longing, of covetousness, of disrespect, a sensation of disrespect, a sensation of being stolen. Something was stolen from you, and and anger and a sense that you want to have revenge.
Okay.
Then you took the helmet off and did it, and you already knew what you wrote the first time.
Right.
You were completely incapable of capturing it. It just wasn't there, and the feelings weren't there.
So what do I write when I take the helm off and I attempt to encapsulate what I felt with the helm on? What comes out? What do I write down?
Just it is clearly memories of how you felt, not the feelings themselves. The other stuff was really in the moment. It was really visceral. It was very angry.
I have on my character sheet 2 pouches.
Yeah.
I want to take a little bit of the seeds, a handful of the seeds, put them in a pouch. Because I have an idea, and I want to take.
Are you wearing the helmet or not when you do it?
Oh, well, I didn't put the helmet back on, right?
Okay, that's why I'm asking you. Are you putting it back on?
I will, but I've one step at a time. I was working that way. And you said there was also some soil.
Yeah.
I'll take a handful of the soil as well, because I want to try something at the front of the temple.
Okay. You take it up. You feel like just throwing it against the wall, but you put it in there anyway.
If I put the helmet back on, then I feel. Yeah, I got you. Okay.
You feel just like throwing it against the wall, walking away, but.
Yeah, for simplicity's sake, I'll just put the helmet back on because I did my experiment that I wanted to do. So, so the sense that I get is that I've somehow brought the temple back to life, and now all this weird stuff is happening.
Yes.
Okay, let me get over to Twitch real quick and look at the map again. How far down does this hallway through the hidden passage go?
I'm glad you asked.
I bet you are.
Hidden passage, hallway.
Yes, sir. Let me turn a light on in here too. It's starting to get dark.
Up to here.
I don't even know if that helped. But, oh yeah, it did a little bit. Right.
Okay. So what I'm now sideways. You walk out of there, and you are walking down that way to find out what's there. And right at the bottom of the screen, right, that threshold that you see there at the corner, there is a door that's there, and it's made out of stone. The stone is utterly black.
Not marble.
You get closer, it is that same black stone that the columns were made out
of. Got it. And I already know that that's not Retikian stone.
It is clearly not Retikian stone. You have no idea where the people that made this got it from.
Got it. Okay. Check for traps.
Okay.
Although I think we might be a little beyond that now. This is too weird for this. Okay. I don't know if traps are really our problem at this point.
As soon as who are you gonna have examine for traps?
The monks.
Which one of them?
Jonas.
Okay, Jonas gets on there and pulls out some thieves' tools, starts looking at the door, starts messing with it.
And dies instantly. I'm not really worried about him dying because I'll just put him in the bowl.
The second he touches the door, a letter appears on the front of the door. Some kind of one of these runes that you've been seeing, a letter from this other language. And Jonas explodes into flame. He shrieks and turns into this ball of fire. Instantly, his whole body is consumed by fire. Everybody jumps back stunned. What are you going to do? He's flailing around on fire.
That's fucking weird.
Screaming.
Yeah.
Echoing through the wall. Echoing through the halls.
Well, I guess we could try to put him out. His whole body's on fire?
His whole body's on fire. He's screaming, running around.
That's a bigger problem than just a trap.
Hits the wall, careens off the other wall. There's really nothing you can do except watch him die. And
How?
he hits the wall and goes in the middle of the floor, and you just see him fall in the middle of the floor on fire, licking flames.
We can't do anything.
The sound of the licking flames starts to ebb in the background, you hear it. The sound of dogs barking. It begins slowly, distantly, and then it starts to increase. Louder, all around you, louder and louder and louder. And as you look at the smoke that came up from Jonas's body that's clinging to the ceiling, it's all black, that dark smoke that you saw before in your dream.
How is Monty responding to this?
Monty is looking around. She's looking around. She has this look on her face of
WTF, baby.
fear.
Oh, wow. That's unexpected.
And that is where we're going to end our session for the evening.
Yeah. Right on, man. That was crazy.
Well done, man. Okay, so...
That's crazy. That's crazy cool, man.
So, what we have done is we have explored more of the temple. We have tried on the magical helmet. We have learned the magical helmet has the ability to increase the acuity of your senses, and it seems to improve your intelligence. It also seems like it gives you strange insights from not a sentience, but some kind of a quasi, like an echo of some kind.
Mm.
Like it's got this remnants of a personality to it.
Yeah, it's almost like it remembers.
It remembers.
Mm.
And it has helped you learn different things about this. You had the horrible dream about the smoke and the fire and the dog barking, and you found out it was universal. It wasn't just you that had it.
Mm-hmm.
You have discovered that what grows in these, now that you've stoked life back into this temple, what grows inside of these bowls continues to grow. It gains almost life of itself, whether it's cut, disembodied, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you found out that this door that leads south here was clearly magically trapped or something. It's got some kind of response to being touched, and it killed Jonas.
But that was a little more than a trap. That was almost like the personality of the temple itself, or at least of that corridor.
You get the impression that it was a magical trap that he triggered.
Okay.
You get the impression he triggered a magical trap, and magical traps can't be found by thieves.
Right.
So he touched it, and he blew up, and then the dogs came. Whether they're loose now in the temple, or where they are, or what they're doing, it's impossible to tell.
Okay.
So that is pretty much what happened in the session.
Mm-hmm.
There's two other important things. Through your own experience and through your through your own experience and through the Helm's help, you discovered that Dimitros and the Medusa were probably tied here by some kind of spell that forced them to complete a duty, and now that it was done, it released them. You suspect that Dimitros was the caretaker of the Helm, and that that the Medusa is probably its protector, which makes the role of the Chimera a little unclear. Because previously you thought the Chimera was the protector of the Helm. It is not.
No, I thought the Chimera was the protector of the sandals, the sword, and the shield.
Okay, well then in that case, that's what you think.
Okay.
At this point.
Okay.
So that is another revelation that you have had, is that those guys also had a role to play. And it seems like when people's roles are done within this temple, that things that are here have roles to play. And when they're over with, they're gone. They're just ghosts. They're echoes. However, the dogs sounded very, very real to you.
Okay. And the trap on the door has done its duty, so the trap is gone? Yeah, okay.
That might need a little more experimentation, but I'm not sure you're going to find anybody to volunteer for that one.
Yeah, right. I get it. But okay, interesting. And we lost Brother Jonas.
Brother Jonas is dead.
Which is crazy because we've been going so carefully every step of the way.
Exactly, and that happened all of a sudden that fast.
Yeah.
Which is a reminder to you of what edition of Dungeons and Dragons you're playing right now.
Yeah, and also the lethality of the encounter, because I've been approaching this as a antiquarian.
Yeah.
Not as a first level or second level fighter or whatever I am today. So that's my whole playstyle today was a little bit different, but yeah, I'm with you.
There's a few things in play here. Number one, you got to remember, Brother Jonas, as a monk, has low hit points to begin with. Okay. Mm-hmm. Number two, you're not wrong about the encounter. You have to remember a couple things. You guys went on this encounter, on this mission, but there's no such thing as encounters by level in first edition. When you guys went after this Helm, it's very possible that you went in at a dungeon that is far harder than you're equipped to deal with.
Sure.
In fact, looking at some of the things that you see around you, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that that's the case. That you're not quite high enough level to deal with some of this stuff. But then again, you've all actually managed to cope with it well enough so far too. So maybe that's not the case.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But that's something that's in play for you to consider. But more along the lines, this whole adventure was designed for a couple things. When you play with me, generally speaking, in a convention play setting or in a module play setting or whatever, there is a finite beginning, finite end. The scenario is created a little bit differently than a campaign scenario. Mm-hmm. The campaign scenario, I can play the mystery angle, where you're not going to know everything right away, and some things just aren't explained. That you have to wait and see, maybe come back when you're higher level, or maybe come to somebody who's an expert, or something like that. You're not going to know everything right away. There are things that you're going to see that are going to vex you, and they're like, man, I wish I knew more about that. Well, guess what? You don't have all the information. Mm-hmm. And that is a good example of how modules in first edition were designed. A lot of the Gygaxian things. Hey, Gintano, it's great to see you, man. It is, that's a good example of first edition modules. A lot of times there were things that were there that you just did not know what they did until you happened to find the right piece of information, and you put 2 and 2 together and got 4. There's been a couple places here that you've gotten 2 to 2 together and you've gotten 4. There's been a couple places where you got 2 to 2 together and got 5.
Sure.
So we're going to see exactly how this eventuates going forward. But this is a way different of a module adventure scenario than you're used to. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of cool stuff that happened, a lot of environmental stuff, and a lot of lore stuff that you've learned about a culture that's really not common to the Flyness. So there's some cool stuff going on here.
Yeah, I think in spite of other than Brother Jonas dying, which was obviously, was not in my plans, but I think it's one of my favorite episodes, actually. This was a crazy episode in terms of there was no fighting whatsoever, which is, crazy. And it's all investigatory type of, yeah, that's cool.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. We did a lot of stuff with new technology tonight. I've learned a few things about it. The picture quality is way better with the new technology portion that I put forth here. I need some work on my map. I need to do a couple things to get that to work a little better, but for the most part, it is a sound proof of concept. We'll go from there.
Right on, man.
Yeah, we'll go from there. But I do like what you're doing a lot. And
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see. And your play was excellent tonight. You'll hang around after we're done. And we'll talk a little bit online here about what you saw, what happened, your thoughts. But for now, we're going to sign off for the evening. Guys, everybody out there in Twitch that got a hold of to watch us, I really appreciate you doing so. I saw some faces here that I usually don't see, and I was really excited about that. Hopefully you liked what you saw. As Rainmar said, it wasn't a super action-packed fight, balls of the wall adventure, but hopefully the subtlety of it was to your liking. We'll be back here pretty soon. You'll get some notices on Facebook and on Twitch here when we're going to be live again next. And for Jeremy Brazil, Rainmar, the Wildlight, I'm Carlos A. Slicing, your DM for First Betrayal. Please have a good night and stay healthy and stay safe, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.